Chapter 1383. With the mobile sanctum, an important facility of the Expeditionary Army as the foundation, combined with the technology provided by the Knights of Steam, a Gothic-style pure white church was built in the city of London with steam machinery as the power source. The fundamental function of the mobile sanctum was to remove the filth of the hybrid demons on the knights, or to completely execute the irreversible fallen knights. Therefore, this church was also named the Sanctum of Reckoning. Olivia, the leader of the Holy Knights, was in charge. Although the two leaders, Malone and Alex, had left the city with a large number of troops, it did not affect the normal operation of the sanctum. The core members of the Holy Knights were still here. Of course, there was another leader, Shea Cromwell of the Scarlet Knights, who also stayed in the city of London. She lurked with the Scarlet Knights at the other end of the street in St. Daphil's Central Hospital, which was responsible for physical trauma treatment. Sanctum of Reckoning, as the church itself flowed with a strong holy aura. It occupied a large area and was built in a hybrid demon city, which seemed very out of place and strange. When there were no traces of hybrid demons in the nearby streets, all the invader teams gathered here. There were a total of 6 teams and more than 30 powerhouses with the level of door opening. The interaction was very high, and the abilities of each other could achieve a perfect complement. Wait a moment. The energy emitted by this building is abnormally strong. There may be a mythical body living in it. To be able to control such pure holy light, it must belong to a special species among the hybrid demons. Before you go in, everyone put on my mask. A low and strange voice came from the alley. A man wearing a top hat and a black robe slowly walked out of the alley. What was important to note was that this person's face seemed to be smeared with a thick layer of white powder. It also seemed like he was wearing a thin mask between skin and hard shell. The appearance of this person and the words that had just been transmitted made the members of the team around the Sanctum of Reckoning look troubled. There was even a look of fear in their eyes. Masked craftsmen, a mythical body from the Holy World, had a higher status than the Golden Saint that Han Dong had defeated. It was also more mysterious. Compared to most decent craftsmen, this masked craftsman was the exact opposite. He acted strangely, and the mythical body he developed also involved deep meat and spiritual transformation. This time, as a mythical general, he did not have any direct subordinates under his command. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. The mask will be half embedded on your face, and you can take it off at any time. These masks will prevent you from being directly contaminated by the hybrid demons. At the same time, they will strengthen you according to your characteristics. After the investigation of this sanctum is over, you can return the mask to me. After saying that, the masked smith lifted his black robe to the left and right, revealing a dazzling array of faces. The material, style, and engravings of these masks all matched the current members of the team. If it were any other time, everyone would definitely refuse to wear it. In the face of the unknown threat of the hybrid demons, as well as the frequent reports of teams going missing, some people try to put on the masks. A dragonkin in human form slowly put a rock mask on his face. Strange nerve tentacles immediately grew from the inside of the mask, extending into the facial pores and covering the face as a new layer of skin. When he tried to remove it, although there was pain from the nerves, there was not much of a problem overall. Most importantly, the dragonkin who put on a mask felt that his brain was unprecedentedly clear, and his ability to control rock formations and heavy pressure had also improved. At first, he still had some fear of the hybrid demons, but now it was gone. Seeing this, everyone also put on their masks. However, excluding the mechanical life belonging to the Mother Matrix, it was not that there were no masks or machines to use, but there were some other reasons. Let's go. Let's see what's so special about this church. The masked smith deliberately let the members of the team walk in front, while he quietly followed behind. The door of the church was not closed at all and was easily pushed open. Rich holy light flowed on the ground of the church like a stream. Such an area made it difficult for the sinful spirits, who were inclined towards evil, to adapt. With the protection provided by the mask, they could barely move forward in the church. The rest of the individuals were not affected. There were even some individuals with righteous attributes who were exceptionally comfortable under the bathing of the holy light. There's no disguise. This is the real, holy area of the church. The purity of the holiness condensed inside far surpasses most of the churches in our world. A saint-level craftsman touched the mural on the wall and gave a very high evaluation of the church. Seventh, divine blessing, true God chain. An elegant female voice echoed in the church. Several chains made of holy light shot down from the arched ceiling of the church. Sinful spirits or individuals who emitted evil energy were all bound as the targets of the chains. Coupled with the suppression given by the church, they were not allowed to struggle at all. 2 of them shot toward the masked smith, but they bounced off when they were about to touch the surface of his body. However, the holy chains did not attack everyone. For example, the craftsmen who admired the church were spared from the damage of the chains. This is a place of holiness, and evil beings are forbidden to set foot in it. The voice echoed in the church, intensifying the purification effect of the holy light chains. The next second, the masked smith radiated a strange domain, and strange masks grew on the ground around him. The solute domain stimulated the bound individuals to a great extent. The masks that the masked smith had promised could be taken off were now completely rooted in their minds, completely controlling their consciousness and turning them into the masked smith's possessions. This also stimulated the individual's potential to a great extent, and at the same time, it allowed them to obtain a part of the mask's mythical effect. Bang! The holiness dissipated, and the chains broke free. The masked smith at the back of the group whispered, "You're clearly an evil Yemo born from chaos, yet you insist on pretending to be related to holiness. How disgusting. I hope you can understand one thing. We're here because of the war, not for sightseeing or worship." The masked smith waved his hand. The individuals who were completely controlled by the masks began to accumulate different types of energy and were about to launch an indiscriminate bombardment to destroy the entire church. Buzz! In an instant, an incomparably dazzling light burst out from the high altar of the church. Even if one closed their eyes, they would still be affected. For individuals with evil attributes, the effect would be multiplied. The energy bombardment that was about to be released was interrupted. Whoosh! At the same time, a spear inlaid with gold and carrying an extremely destructive power shot out from the light. It forcefully pierced through the sinful bone shield created by a sinful spirit, pierced through the rotten and exposed flesh, and nailed it to the mural of the church. Holiness erupted, purifying and annihilating. This kind of trash dares to make a ruckus in the sanctum? I'm more than enough to deal with you. The sound of horse hooves came from the high altar. He was a grand knight with a sturdy physique that was comparable to the Lionheart Knights in golden sacred armor. Riding on a golden warhorse, he appeared in the light. In his hand, holy energy with a destructive attribute was condensed, quickly condensing into an extremely exaggerated spiral spear. Holy Knights, First Corporal, Spear of the Holy Emperor, Reinhard Scarlet. Chapter 1384. In the Holy City's plan for the positions of the knights. As long as it was a knight who had completed the mythical structure, they would be qualified to compete for the position of leader. Due to the infinite development given by the Destiny realm and the continuous improvement of the potential of human descendants, there were more and more mythical bodies. Slowly, there would be 2, 3, or even more mythical bodies in a group of knights. Of course, some mythical bodies were not competitive enough in various aspects, or because of their own characteristics, they would be invited by the Holy City's royal family or the Supreme Council. They would choose to leave the group of knights and go to a more suitable position. Therefore, in the general group of knights, only the leader and deputy leader would reach the mythical level. The first, second, and third captain below them were at the peak of the threshold. However, there were special situations in a few groups of knights. One of them was the Holy Knights. It was inseparable from the Holy See. It involved the extremely important spread of religion and the purification of all humans in the city. The Holy Knights had a very high status and even had a strong political intervention power. To become the leader, not only did they need to pass the regular leader's assessment, but they also needed to receive direct support from the Holy See. Olivia Christian was a saintess nurtured by the Holy See. Even with the full support of the Holy See, she did not take any shortcuts to become the leader. Instead, she took the position with absolute strength. Her position was extremely important to the Holy City. She was once regarded as the light of hope for humans against the hybrid demons. She was recognized by the Supreme Council and given the title of Holy Priest. She could participate in the discussion of issues that touched the foundation of the world. In the discussion of the Great Expedition, when it was mentioned that Olivia would be the person in charge of the mobile sanctum, it was immediately opposed by the Holy See. In the end, the Holy See reluctantly agreed with the request of many leaders, elders of the council, and Olivia. In order to ensure her safety, the 3 accompanying captains of the Holy Knights were all mythical level. At the same time, they had also undergone strict selection by the Holy See. They were Olivia's spear, spring, and shield. Now, spear of the Holy King, Reinhard Scarlet, as the sharpest spear of the Holy Knights. He personally appeared and directly killed one of the members of the enemy. At the same time, as the holy light shone, one by one, the Holy Knights' cleansing unit appeared around the church, holding spears, swords, shields, or scepters. They joined forces with Reinhard to attack the intruders. Under the blessing of the sanctum, each of them was able to exert their strongest strength. This scene surprised the masked craftsman. Human. Furthermore, he was a human who had abandoned the influence of the hybrid demons and had grown up through fate. So that was how it was. No wonder they could build such a church. This is different from the information we received. Interesting. Try to get all of you to wear masks as well, so that I can slowly investigate the intelligence of your world. The mask maker, Deshirue, revealed an extremely strange smile. His domain was fully activated. All friendly team members wearing masks were under deep control. At the cost of burning their truth, they burst out with 200% of their potential and fought against the Holy Knights who surrounded them like madmen. The most terrifying thing was not only could the mask take root in the brain, but it could also spread its roots throughout the body. When an individual is at an absolute disadvantage, it is almost impossible to win. The masked craftsman would control this person to do everything possible to hug the opponent. Then, through the roots of the mask and his unique craftsmanship, he would transform this person into a living bomb. The explosion of one's physical body would release the truth that one had comprehended when opening the door, as well as all the energy contained within. It was extremely destructive. Of course, machines without masks were not affected. The fierce battle in the church slowly evolved into an explosion show. The knights who were blessed by the holy light were seriously injured. The entire sanctuary shook in the violent explosion. Part of this supporting enchantment was completely destroyed in the explosion. Explosions rang out one after another. The tremors spread along a special passage built at the bottom of the sanctuary. Crossing the sewer and avoiding the underground palace of the biological mother, they arrived at a special area full of ring-shaped bookshelves with different types of Bibles. It was called the Forbidden Doctrine. Olivia sat in the center position. The priest's coat was placed on the bookshelf beside her. Instead, it was replaced by pages of Bibles that covered her body. The subtle tremors of the explosion came here. A page of the Bible slipped off Olivia's body, revealing a pair of clear eyes. The body that had been imprisoned for a long time slowly moved. At this moment, the second captain, Yates Victoria, who symbolized spring, appeared here and stopped the captain's actions. Captain, there is only one mythical invader. It should be no problem to leave it to Reinhard. Even if it's not possible, let the shield go to support. There is no need for you to go in person. You are the hope of the holy city. This time, you're only limited to providing treatment. The last Minano battle was chaotic enough. Olivia's fairy-like, gentle voice echoed throughout the area. At first, I thought so too, until the explosion just now made me smell a forbidden breath. The situation above may be more dangerous than what we see. It may even lead to the death of all the members of the Holy Knights and the Holy See. Although staying in the Forbidden Doctrine can guarantee my safety, once the battle is lost, everything will be meaningless. I have to go up and take a look. You accompany me. Yes, flesh and blood explosions sounded one after another. The liquidation team suffered heavy losses. They did not even have a chance to receive follow-up treatment. Reinhardt's warhorse turned into a pair of pure white leg armor, providing extremely strong movement speed. He was holding a spiral spear and fighting the masked man head-on. The domain called Holy Death was activated. Under his feet turned into the land left behind after the Holy War. Under the blessing of the domain, all of Reinhardt's attributes were enhanced. He also rolled up the scattered Holy Covenant papers on the ground to strengthen each attack. However, it was extremely difficult for his attacks to kill the target. Even the spear full of destructive holy light pierced through the masked man's body. He could clearly see the body disintegrate. The scattered masks on the side would give birth to a new body. The aura level was only weakened to a small extent. Even if the third captain with a giant shield joined in, it would be difficult to change the situation. It was difficult for the attacks of the two to touch the masked man's foundation. Similarly, the masked man was attacked by two mythical beings. He was also under pressure and could not cause substantial damage to the two. To think that there are two human mythical powerhouses hiding in the church. How boring. I don't want to play with you guys anymore. I have to find interesting body materials. The masked man had the intention to escape. The church, which was destroyed by the explosion, was full of gaps for masks to pass through. For a moment, the masked man's body self-destructed. At the same time, more than 30 masks shot into different gaps. It could be that only one was the original, or it could be that all of them were the original. Reinhardt could not tell at all. He was about to escape. Ha! An arm that came out of nowhere accurately grabbed a white mask. At the same time, the rest of the masks lost control and fell to the ground. The white mask quickly split out ahead of the masked man. With a face full of fear and resentment, it asked, "What are you doing?" "I didn't break the rules. Your war contributions and predictable future contributions have been detected to be negative. You will be eliminated." "Wait, I'm willing." Before the words were finished, a dark matter laser shot out from the palm of his hand. The head and mask in his hand were instantly annihilated. At the same time, the other masks scattered in the church also disintegrated. The masked man from the holy level world, de Jure, was declared dead. The mythical system he symbolized disappeared without a trace. The one who carried out all this was not a holy knight or a priest who came from below. It was an ordinary-looking robot. There was even a metal pipe connected to the neck that was still oozing oil. Chapter 1385. What's going on? The first corporal, the spear of the Holy Emperor, Reinhardt, and the third corporal, the shield of the church, Fito, found it hard to understand what was happening in front of them. The mechanical life form that looked like an elite knight killed a mythical entity in a second. Although the masked craftsman was in a weak state during his escape, he was still a mythical entity. Only an attack that reached the level of the rules could kill him completely. What was even stranger was that the mechanical life form and the masked craftsman were allies. Why would they kill each other? While the two of them were still in shock, the leaking machine had already turned its head around. Non-hybrid demon London resident detected. Mythical level, high threat value. Eliminate him immediately. Feeling the red light released by the mechanical eye, the two holy knights felt like they were on the verge of death. Reinhardt gritted his teeth and injected all the energy he could into the spiral spear. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Golden holy light surged at the tip of the spear like a thunder snake. He took a big step forward and made an extremely standard throwing motion that could exert the greatest strength. Perhaps it was the stimulation of approaching death that stimulated all his potential. For a moment, Reinhardt even felt that he was holding the spear of Longinus that killed Jesus in his hand. The surface of the spiral spear glowed with bursts of red light, and even a few lines of forbidden holy text appeared. The threat value is higher than the estimated value. Activate Annihilation Mode. Domain Expansion. Buzz. The invisible domain was spread by the mechanical life form. Some looming green program code could be vaguely seen flowing on the ground. There seemed to be no change on the outside, but in Reinhardt's brain, a series of strange program code suddenly flashed, trying to shut down all the attack commands generated in his consciousness. For a moment, all the muscles in his body slowly relaxed. We holy knights have long belonged to the Heavenly Father. How can we be interfered with by you? A strong power of faith gushed out and even made Reinhardt's brain burst out with golden light. With absolute faith, he resisted the interference of the program command to his brain. Pa! He crushed the floor tiles with one foot. He held the spear tightly in his hand and threw it with all his strength. Wherever the spear passed, the ground was torn open. A layer of Longinus's shadow covered the surface of the spear, and its destructive power reached its peak. Just as it was about to hit the target, Buzz, the robot raised its arm and made a stop gesture. The spear was completely stopped, just 1 millimeter away from his palm. If Han Dong was here, his magic, I would see another strange scene. The seemingly normal church had been completely transformed into floating program codes. The spear that Reinhardt threw out was also quickly assimilated by the program. Analysis completed. Source program reading has reached 100%. At the same time that the spear turned into data and was absorbed into the metal body, a metal spear that looked exactly the same appeared in the other hand of the machine. He threw it directly at Reinhardt with an even stronger power. What? When Reinhardt wanted to dodge or defend himself, he realized that his self-consciousness was unable to give the two commands to his body. They were forbidden by the program that invaded his brain. Whoosh! Bright red blood spilled on the surface of the cross on the high altar. Reinhardt's eyes were bloodshot, but he wasn't hurt at all. The blood came from the third captain in front of him, Shield of the Church, Fito Walton. The spear completely broke through the epic shield he was carrying and pierced through the middle of his chest. The spear formed by the program was quickly invading Fito's body, and his whole body was turning into liquid metal. The relevant human data was also being read by the machine. Fito. When Reinhardt wanted to go forward to help, a stronger smell of death came from the front. When he looked up, the broken mechanical arm was facing him. A destructive energy that he had never seen before was condensing in the palm. Positron cannon, personal version. Once the cannon was formed, it would annihilate all life along the way, including the two captains. Buzz. The outline of the cannon was formed. A page from an unknown place fell on his arm, and the dogmatic text on the page burst out with holy light, breaking the condensation of the positron energy and activating it. Boom! Self-destruction. The rampaging positrons directly swallowed the machine itself, and all matter in the explosion area was annihilated, leaving not a trace of residue. At the same time, a woman like a fairy descended in front of the two captains with a beam of light. She wore a white robe with gold inlays that symbolized the priest, and a white veil covered her stunning face that would never age. Her white jade fingers touched Captain Fito's body, quickly forming a holy light film that covered his whole body, suppressing the program's deep erosion of the body. Quan, take the two of them to the Forbidden Dogma for treatment. I will take care of here. Hurry. Okay. At the same time, when all the captains withdrew, the already damaged door of the church exploded. A brand new machine stood at the door of the church, its mechanical eyes locked on the woman in front of it, and its mechanical head slowly tilted, as if it was puzzled by the data it read. Actual rank, mythical. The target's domain quality and quality are greater than the mythical limit. The target's energy quality is greater than the mythical limit, and the comprehensive threat value is greater than the mythical limit. What a strange human, when the battle was about to break out. The mechanical individual seemed to have received a piece of information that surprised her, and the speaker embedded in her body played cheerful and triumphant music. With Father Lesos's order, abandon the city wall defense line. The whole army retreated into the city. When hiding in the darkness and carrying out a kind of guerrilla warfare focused on corrosion, the enemy's invasion speed was obviously restrained, and even in the early stages of the battle, the invaders were injured faster than the hybrid demons. At this time, the sinful spirits scattered in different areas of London, carrying out the cleansing of the hybrid demons, all looked at an empty area in the sky because of some kind of reaction. Buzz. Without any warning, a slash of light cut through the sky. A graceful woman walked out of the spatial rift that had been smoothly cut open. There was a famous saber stuck in her neck. Her artistic conception seemed to be higher than before. She didn't care about the giant dragon fighting above the clouds. Instead, she looked at the city of London, where small-scale battles were breaking out in many places. The newly recovered Emperor Slayer needed to do some warm-up activities. Sword draw. Slash. All the creatures that were active in the city had an irresistible ringing in their ears. In a situation where there was no protection. From the south to the north, London was cut in half. A deep scar of nearly 100 meters cut the city, exposing the Mother's Palace hidden underground. Not only that, in the area covered by the slash, the hybrid demons below the mythical level were invaded by the slash intent, and their bodies were forcibly cut in half. Dark, stinky blood spilled all over the buildings and streets. Hundreds of hybrid demons were seriously injured or dead. The balance that the garrison struggled to maintain was completely broken by this slash. Well, not bad. My slash intent has indeed improved. The slash, just now, was just an attempt to kill the Emperor. The next slash would completely destroy all the defenses of London. At this time, in London, two powerful auras gushed out at the same time. Father Lesos, who was holding an umbrella, turned into a black beam of light and came to a position in the air 100 meters away from the Emperor Slayer. At the same time, a bloody smell rose from the East City district where the Expeditionary Army lived. The bright red bat wings about 10 meters long carried the Duchess, who had fangs at the corner of her mouth, quickly to the sky area. Scarlet Knights, Captain Shea Cromwell, known as the Heart of the Knights. Father, if we work together, we should be able to hold on until the reinforcements arrive. I hope so. Chapter 1386. Father Lesos was frightened by the slash just now. He had worked for his mother for many years, but it was the first time he had seen such a terrifying attack. Although London did not have a land deed to support it, being slashed in half with one slash, and even exposing the most important Mother's Palace was too much. Facing this king, who was entangled in sin, Father Lesos even guessed that the other party was the strongest in the invasion. No matter what, we have to hold on until the reinforcements arrive. If we enter the next stage early, the outcome of this game will be worse than expected. Even if darkness is the price, we have to hold on. Moreover, this king's attack is too terrifying. Even if we fight in the sky, it may affect the city at any time, causing the destruction of the terrain and the deaths of the residents. We have to find a way to force her out. Father Lesos's gaze quickly swept across the London celestial body, the iceberg, the church headquarters, the human residential area, and the manor belonging to Hondong. Although the enemy's technology was unexpected, the overall situation was still barely within the limit. Now, what he needed to do was to keep this line used for measurement above the limit. At this moment, a voice filled with a strange rhythm was heard. Lesos, let me give you a hand. This move can only be used once. After that, you need to do everything you can to restrict the other party to the periphery. Our work here is done. We only need to wait for the next stage to arrive. Okay. The source of the voice was the mythical celestial body that was always suspended above London. It belonged to a very special mythical body. They not only symbolized the destruction of the world, but also the basic unit that coordinated the operation of the celestial body. They played a decisive role in the last world disaster. At this moment, an eye with lava flowing from the core of the planet appeared on the surface of the celestial body. The priest immediately signaled Captain Shea to use all means to block the hearing. The next attack would mainly be used to slay the king, but the nearby creatures would also be slightly affected. Perhaps even their brains would explode. Celestial body music of the stars. Perhaps it was through the unique movement of the planet's crust, combined with the musical foundation obtained through inheritance, a sound that could interfere with the rules of the world was emitted from the planet's body. The sound that was emitted at the moment revolved around retreat and had an independent effect. In an instant, an invisible force field like a phantom instantly acted on the body of the king. Wang, even the priests and Captain Xiaya, who had sealed off their hearing in advance, felt a strong ringing in their ears, and liquid seeped out of their 7 orifices. However, they were only affected by less than 10%. As for the celestial voice, it was mainly used to kill emperors. Clang! Clang! The genuine Lumen sword in his hand vibrated at a high frequency, and the bandages covering his body were broken. With the theme of retreat, the voice actually disturbed the very foundation of Emperor Slayer's own rules. Hum! A ring of colorful ripples spread out in the air, and the King Slayer Emperor's body twisted as if he had been hit by a super heavy blow. He turned into a gray ray of light and retreated 10,000 meters in the air, completely leaving London. In the meantime, due to the interference of the Higher King through the rules of speech, 3 deep cracks directly appeared on the surface of the celestial body, and the celestial voice could not be used for a period of time. However, just forcing them to retreat was useless. If there were no restrictions, Emperor Slayer would be able to return to London after a slight recovery. Miss Yaya, I'll be going first. The moment the celestial voice ended, the priest had turned into a black shadow and was approaching Emperor Slayer. The umbrella in the priest's hand had already turned into a 2-meter-long heavy sword with black water flowing out of it. At the same time, his black shirt had completely exploded at this moment, revealing a strong body full of dark stigmata. These stigmata that covered the surface of his body looked more like a mouth without a lip structure. The Dark Dwellers mainly used secret techniques and let Hose belong to the rare type of combat. His body was also unique among the Dark Dwellers and was called the Black Devouring Body. It could use darkness as food for the body, devouring any form of dark matter to strengthen the body. At this moment, the stigmata opened up in the form of a mouth, spitting out terrifying dark tentacles. This posture meant that the priest was going all out with all the darkness that he had absorbed in his life. This was also the main reason why his birth mother intended to transfer the title deed of London to the priest. With the priest's potential, he would definitely be able to seize the throne one day. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The priest's speed kept increasing as he charged forward. While Emperor Slayer was still affected by the celestial voice and could not make a move due to the weapon in his hand trembling violently, he swung the heavy sword in his hand with all his might. Black Moon, accompanied by the powerful downward slash of the black heavy sword. A crescent moon was reflected in the air for a long time. Ding! The crisp sound of the collision and the shock waves spread out at the same time. Emperor Slayer's body fell heavily, smashing a huge pit in the metal desert. However, the priest's expression was not good. This is an attack that I gave with all my strength. Is it still useless? Emperor Slayer had blocked the heavy attack just now, and only received the pure impact, which did not cause much damage at all. Hiss! The priest gritted his teeth. The stigmata mouths all over his body spat out thick darkness, forming a dark demon with tentacles covering his face and body. He charged at Emperor Slayer, who was in the sand pit at full speed, not giving his opponent a chance to rest. However, ding! At the same time that the sound of weapons clashing was heard, a sandstorm that was tens of meters high exploded in the surroundings. Motionless, the priest, in his dark demon god form, coupled with the downwards acceleration, gave him a full force crush, but was blocked by Emperor Slayer's blade. His body remained standing, and only his knees were slightly bent. What was even more terrifying was that Emperor Slayer only used one hand to hold the blade. The gap was like the gap between a legend and an emperor, an insurmountable chasm. Oh no! When the priest realized that something was wrong, Emperor Slayer's other hand made a barehanded slash. Whoosh! The priest tried his best to turn his body. He barely avoided the slash from his head to his shoulder. His left arm and part of the left side of his body were completely cut off. At the same time, a slash mark that was hundreds of meters long appeared in the sand behind the priest. Rule, a slash that contained a rule, once damaged the body, it would be difficult to heal, unless, hiss, blood vessels grew. A large number of new blood vessels suddenly grew between the priest's left hand that was thrown in the air and the priest's body, intertwining and quickly stitching together. An indescribable vitality forcefully offset the rule between the wounds, completing the reconnection of the limbs. At the same time, a bright red leather whip was thrown out from the blind spot, firmly binding Emperor Slayer's body. Captain Xiaya held the leather whip with one hand and the hair that was hanging on her face with the other. Priest, show us all your trump cards, or else we will all die here. However, the one who answered was not the priest. It was Emperor Slayer, who was bound by the leather whip and whose body was dyed red with blood. An elegant female voice came through the vibrations of the blade. As expected of us, 01, there are so many top-notch mythical bodies. The two of you are even more powerful than the insects and plants I encountered before. What a pity. Chapter 1387. Blood. This liquid was the root that supported the growth of life in thousands of worlds. In the thousands of worlds that were related to the Black Tower, even if the world's background was different, the guidance given by the true God was different, or the development direction of life was different, there would always be an experience that would be interested in the blood flowing in the body. Most of the worlds would eventually develop a branch related to blood in the process of development. Just like in the hybrid demon world, there was the blood descendants represented by the Middle Old King, CHF, or in the world that Count was currently associated with, there was the corresponding underworld blood system. However, the blood that the Scarlet Knights, Shea Cromwell possessed was closely related to herself and not completely from the world system. Shea could be called the heart of the Knights and controlled the hospital system of the entire Holy City, so that more than 70% of the Knights could be guaranteed to be in good health, survive, or leave no sequelae. When the top Knights of the Holy City planned to carry out the extremely difficult mythical level, Journey of Destiny, they would often try to bring Shea along. As for Shea's true identity, even many of the commanders did not know. As the daughter of the Duke, she, who was born in the end of the world, did not inherit many good genes. Instead, she suffered from an extremely rare immune deficiency disease. The most important thing was, this congenital defect disease would cause an individual to have obvious external manifestations. When Shea sucked breast milk for the first time, she showed a bloodthirsty characteristic and actually sucked a little blood from her mother. Later, it was discovered that she could obtain a temporary immune recovery by drinking blood. Her desire for blood continued to increase as she grew older, and it had to be the arterial blood of a living person. Once such a characteristic was exposed, she would be regarded as a heretic by the Holy See, and even the Duke's position would be affected. Therefore, the Duke would often buy some slave from the civilian area and bring them home as Shea's snacks. However, Shea's nature was very kind. Although she could not control her desire for blood, she would try to stop eating as much as possible to save the lives of the slaves. At the same time, Shea asked her father to provide these poor slaves with good tonics. When they recovered from anemia, they would be given a certain amount of money and freedom and return a normal life in the civilian area. On the surface, the Duke agreed to his daughter's request, but in fact, he quietly executed the slaves. The population of the Holy City was a problem. The most important thing was that the Duke had to cut off all possible channels that might leak the secret. This matter must be hidden well. The turning point of all this happened when Xiaya was 12 years old. Because her desire was too strong and hard to suppress, Xiaya's bite almost caused the servant to faint. Xiaya, whose heart was filled with guilt, sneaked out of the room and followed him in the dark, wanting to see if this servant could survive. In the end, he accidentally saw an extremely terrifying scene. The servant did not receive any medical treatment and was directly thrown into the bottomless cellar. There were also many familiar faces below. They were all the servants that Xiaya had met in the past month. They were piled up in the cellar in the state of corpses, waiting to be dealt with together. Knowing the truth, the guilt in his heart instantly turned into a heavy mountain of sin. Xiaya escaped from the Duke's mansion in the middle of the night and ran down the stairs of the holy city, which symbolized the difference in rank towards the lowest level of the commoner's district. She didn't know what to do to atone for her sins, so she just ran around aimlessly. At this moment, she accidentally caught a glimpse of the Chosen One gathering in the square of the civilian district. A story she had heard by chance emerged in her mind, a story about fate and knights. Xiaya, who was only 12 years old, mixed into the crowd in the square and participated in the first test of fate. What she didn't know was that because of eating blood all year round to replenish her immunity, coupled with various precious ingredients from the fate space provided by the Duke, her physique had long surpassed that of ordinary people. Because of Xiaya's intervention, the difficulty of the incident that the team encountered was raised to 4.5 stars. Using this as an opportunity, Xiaya obtained the ability to control blood in advance. At the same time, she also found the answer in her heart, the answer to how to obtain redemption. Because of personal and family reasons, she didn't step into the Knights Academy to undergo any systematic learning. She only secretly went to the clock tower to participate in the test of fate once a year. The clock not only did not stop this unqualified little girl, but also warmly received her every time and secretly erased her tracks when she came to the clock tower. Just like this, Xiaya quietly grew up in the dark. When she was 23 years old, a serious hybrid demon invasion broke out in the holy city, affecting the middle level where the nobles lived. Unfortunately, Xiaya was in the street where the incident happened today to buy medical equipment and medical-related books. When the knights arrived, dozens of blood corpses that were contaminated by blood wine had all died, and there was a small mountain of them. As for the mature hybrid demon that caused the blood corpse incident, it was completely possessed by a resident, and it was being held in the hand of a young girl. The essence blood that originated from the hybrid demon flowed into the girl's body. A month later, Xiaya was invited to join the Scarlet Knights and directly became an elite knight. 2 years later, the Scarlet Knights held a succession ceremony. Xiaya Cromwell became the new captain, and she was also the youngest captain in history. The reason was not only because of Xiaya's strength, but also because of Xiaya's uniqueness in the fate space. Due to her birth defect, her kinship trait allowed her to accidentally connect with a world filled with blood. More importantly, that world had even prepared the throne qualification for her. Using the authority of the captain, Xiaya controlled all the private medical units in the Holy City in one fell swoop and established St. Daphil Central Hospital. Including the civilian area, there were branches in all areas of the Holy City, providing almost free medical treatment to critically ill patients. Territory expansion, Blood Moon, a crescent moon that was dripping blood hung in the sky, and the area covered included Emperor Slayer and Father Lysos. Team Buff Type Territory, bathed in the Blood Moon, Father Lysos felt his HP increase rapidly, and his regeneration speed was about 3 times faster than before. When he was heavily injured, the moonlight bathed in blood would also perform super-fast surgery on the individual arm. However, the most important increase was in Xiaya, the main body. The bloody skull mask that faintly hurts, the unruly beast that shocks the world. Confusion, bright red, madness, howling, all are stopped at this moment in eternal sleep. The endless sea of blood, the silent and peaceful ultimate forbidden prison. Grow, devour, spread to the high mountains, seal the common people. Prince's Blood Curse. 8. Blood Prison Coffin Seal. Father Lysos left Emperor Slayer's position at full speed. A red coffin that looked like an Iron Maiden rose from the ground, about 100 meters tall, and instantly sealed Emperor Slayer within it at the same time. The blood moon completely shattered like a living thing, and the blood that poured down poured onto the surface of the coffin, completing the strongest blood curse that Xiaoya could cast now. So strong, Father Lysos was stunned by the blood coffin in front of him. Whoosh! A mythical level, beyond understanding, spread out horizontally. A huge opening was cut open in the blood coffin. Emperor Slayer, whose body was entwined by countless blood vessels and roots, was looking at Xiaoya through the opening with his mind's eye. As a low-level human enslaved by the hybrid demons, to be able to reach this level, you should be the strongest among this group of humans, as he spoke. The throne, with 7 famous swords hanging from it, slowly rose from Emperor Slayer's feet. At the same time that the bright red bondage was broken, Emperor Slayer took a famous sword that was specially used to cut flesh, and quickly cut off the blood vessels that were connected to her body, breaking the coffin with his own strength. The self-repair of the blood coffin, combined with the continuous supply of blood energy from Xiaoya's main body, could not compare to Emperor Slayer's destructive power. 5 minutes later, the 100-meter-tall blood coffin completely collapsed, and even the desert within a radius of 5 miles was completely dyed red. To be able to touch the king's sealing spell, you're really powerful. If I wasn't locked in a magnetic chamber before, I might have been trapped by you for a longer time. Unfortunately, your current level is not enough to threaten me. Your blood flows with heavy sins. I will cut open your body and bring your soul to the abyss of sins. With just one step, Emperor Slayer arrived in front of Xiaoya. The true path of Lumen was already hanging above her head. However, at this moment, Xiaoya's face was relaxed. She raised her hand to stop Father Lysos, who wanted to help, and said in a relaxed tone, "I never thought that I could defeat or threaten you. My purpose for leaving the hospital early was to cooperate with the hybrid demons and buy as much time as possible. In addition, you guessed one thing wrong. I'm not the strongest among humans. Compared to those monsters who don't care about their lives, my strength ranking among the leaders is not even in the top 10. I'm just a doctor, not a warrior." Sniff, Xiaoya deliberately sniffed at this moment. It's coming. After saying that, a string of black shadows suddenly flashed past the two of them. At this moment, Emperor Slayer was forced to withdraw his attack and enter a state of alert. When the night flashed past, there was a sense of crisis, as if the Grim Reaper's scythe was at his throat. However, this feeling gradually disappeared as the black shadow went further away. Something very dangerous just passed by. What's going on? Emperor Slayer hurriedly looked over with his mind's eye. He saw a skeletal warhorse that was constantly releasing the aura of death was carrying a mysterious black-robed man toward the city of London at the fastest speed, completely ignoring their situation here. Just when Emperor Slayer was puzzled, the surrounding air suddenly became dry and hot. When his head turned in the direction of the aura, the world had completely changed. The alien desert, which was originally composed of metal sand, evolved into a piece of pitch-black, scorched earth full of cracks. The 5-day sky of space turned into the hellish sky, covered by layers of red clouds and black fog. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. The unusually heavy sound of horse hooves caused the earth to resonate, as if an army of demons was about to arrive on the scorched earth. However, when he looked over, he only saw a figure. The very conspicuous ash crown hung above his head. His eyes burned with the flames of hell that could extinguish the soul. The demon armor that was completely integrated with the body was thirsting for the soul of the strong. On their chests was the mark of a skull with a demon's horn, which represented the most aggressive group in the holy city, the Hell Knights, who were always at the forefront of the army. P.S. The title event has begun. You can go to the book circle to participate. Chapter 1388. Since Markham City was located on the opposite side of Pandora from London, the location was personally determined by the Matrix. It was mainly to ensure that the hybrid demons who came to Pandora for the first time couldn't find any information about them. Therefore, Grim Reaper and Malone, who tried to sneak in secretly, had to cross more than half of the planet to get back. Compared to Emperor Slayer, who rushed over from Herbal and Company's station route, it was more than 10 times farther. They barely made it in time. 5 minutes ago, Grim Reaper and Malone stepped back to the metal desert where London was located. At this moment, they saw a 100-meter-tall scarlet coffin rising from the ground near London. Even though the bloody aura from Shea was extremely strong, it couldn't hide the king's aura mixed in it. Suddenly, the veins on Malone's forehead were all bulging. The Hellsteed under him burst out with an indescribable speed and caught up with Grim Reaper, whose agility was already higher. "Alex, leave the situation with Shea to me. You go straight to the city." "Okay." Alex didn't say much. He put away the silver scythe on his back and further injected energy into the horse. He once again pulled away from Malone at a terrifying speed. He directly flashed past Emperor Slayer and Captain Shea and went into the city. Game balance meant that the number of individuals of the same level was equal. There must be a hostile king that Alex needed to control. At this moment, Malone's gaze was neither on the dragon in the sky nor the city of London that was cut in half. His pupils focused. He locked onto Shea, who was constantly coughing out blood and had suffered dozens of mind slashes on her body, who was kneeling on the ground. If he was even 5 seconds later, Shea would be buried here. All of a sudden, images of the two of them flashed through his mind. At the same time, there were also some conversations that were deeply etched in his memory. "Clock Tower's secret room. Clock Keeper, where did this girl come from? We're about to carry out a more difficult mission. We don't have time to take care of her. My name is Shea Cromwell. I'm 18 years old this year. Although I didn't join the Knights, I've already completed the seed destruction. I'm very powerful. If you don't believe me, cut off your hand. I can fix it for you right away." Bar room, Malone hugged the reluctant Grim Reaper with one hand, while holding a large wine glass with the other, and poured wine into his mouth without restraint. Sitting opposite him was Shea, who was only 20 years old and had a high ponytail. "Congratulations, Big Brother Malone, for becoming the commander of the Demon Guards of the Hell Knights. It's no big deal. I, Malone, will definitely become a captain within 10 years. In the future, I will become the strongest knight in the Holy City and lead the Hell Knights to kill all the hybrid demons outside the city." "Burbo, right? Siaya, what do you want to do in the future?" "Me? I want to open a hospital that can provide the best treatment for all of humanity." "Just this?" "Yeah, in front of the bell tower. I'll be back in 5, 10 years at most. The rules of hell are too complicated." Siaya's childishness was completely removed, and she now had a mature temperament. She stared at Malone with tears in her eyes, gritted her teeth, and nodded. "Okay, I'll wait for you for 10 years. Who knew that Malone would walk for more than 30 years? The road to becoming a king was far more difficult than he had imagined. Because of this, he had always felt guilty and even developed some inner demons at the final stage of becoming a king. But it was difficult for him to express his personality. Staring at Siaya, who was almost executed, Malone fell into a rare state of rage. "You mother of ***, don't you dare touch her." A hell domain that could tear apart the rules of the world spread wildly behind him along with his overflowing anger. It didn't just turn the metal desert into a scorched hell. It even vaguely established a connection with the large world, hell, which was not very far away. It was separated only by a thin membrane. Many large hell demons felt the aura of the king and crowded in front of the passage, wanting to tear the membrane to help Malone fight. There were even 3 hell demon kings who had the same status as Malone, but had extremely high seniority, who felt the appearance of the world's membrane. Their original bodies crossed the hell level and arrived on the other side of the membrane. They stared at Emperor Slayer, who was not far away, with a look of hatred, resentment, and contempt. Suddenly, Emperor Slayer's calm heart was stirred up, forcing her to take 2 steps back and set up a defensive move. She had completely forgotten about Siaya, who was originally going to kill her. However, Pandora had been completely sealed off by the Black Tower. Even if Malone was the node holder or a major shareholder, he couldn't call for help from the corresponding world. At most, he could only do this much. Of course, Malone didn't need anyone's help. He was bound to kill the target himself, using the suppression provided by the Demon King's vision. A flaming horse's hooves trampled past Emperor Slayer. He didn't attack her immediately. Malone tried his best to suppress his anger. The first thing he needed to do was to take Xiaya, whose energy was almost depleted and her consciousness was about to be destroyed by the thought execution, away from the battlefield to prevent her from being affected by the upcoming battle. The flames burning on the Hell Warhorse were all extinguished. Malone hugged Xiaya, who was sitting on the horse's back with one hand and played with her brown curly hair with the other. He spoke in a tone of a king that was absolutely reassuring. "It's okay. Leave the rest to me." Who knew that the response to Malone was neither a weeping beauty nor a gaze full of worship and adoration. Instead, it was a look of disgust and even a little rejection. "Did you and Alex fall in love on the road? Why are you so slow? Do you think I want to go to the front line? I was just trying to buy some time. I was almost killed just now. Hey, we didn't stop for a moment and rushed back at full speed, okay? At least I saved you in time. Can't you give me some face? You made such a cool entrance, but it's so boring in an instant. You weren't like this in the past." Xiaya's words completely extinguished Malone's anger. "Don't mention the past to this Duke. Once you mention it, I want to whip you twice. Also, don't let your anger get to your head. This king from another world is very strong. If you're not careful, you'll be killed too. Yes, I was a little impulsive just now. I almost attacked in a fit of anger, but I won't be killed in one strike. This time, I won't let you wait any longer. Once I'm done with everything here, we'll go back to the holy city together. What happened in the past was my fault." This was the first sincere apology. Xiaya didn't say much after hearing it. At this time, the Hellsteed stopped in front of Father Lessos. "Father, take Xiaya directly back to London. Alex has already rushed back to the city. There won't be much of a problem. Leave it to me here." "Oh, okay." The priest was also frightened by the picture of hell in front of him. It was the first time he saw someone who could tear apart the membrane of the world with their will. He stared at the two people who were leaving. Malone jumped off the horse, grabbed the back of the Hellsteed, and pulled it out forcefully. Crack, the entire body of the warhorse was reconstructed with the spine as the center, turning into a blade full of tooth marks. It could even increase the heat release of the blade by twisting the handle like a motorcycle and accumulate internal kinetic energy. He dragged the exaggerated blade with one hand and waved at Emperor Slayer with the other. "Come on." Chapter 1389. 111. Similar to the roar of an engine, the weapon in Malone's hand was a pure product of hell. It came from various materials obtained by Malone in the Demon King's trial, including the body parts and demon essences obtained from killing the 72 demon gods. He also entered the forbidden demon domain that no demon had ever touched and found the Demon King's treasure chest that was hidden by an unknown person. He obtained the vital components for the construction of the weapon. On the day he was crowned as king, with the help of the blacksmiths from Hell and the other Demon King's gifts and assistance, they jointly created this Hell Divine weapon that fused with the attribute of Carrier and completely matched Malone's characteristics. Thom Tyrant Empire. When checked in the Illustration Handbook of Fate, the name of the equipment was Dark Gold. Its essence had already surpassed the concept of the quality of a conventional weapon of fate. During the construction period, not only did it gather extremely high-quality materials, it was also infused with the laws of the world of Hell and the will of the Demon King of Hell. Just like its name, this weapon, which had a wild style and vividly expressed the theme of Hell, possessed extremely brutal destructive power. The most terrifying thing was that it had war growth ability. It would increase its destructive power according to the duration of the battle, Malone's state, and the number of combos it gave. Because of the conversation with Shea, Malone's accumulated anger had completely dissipated. In exchange, he was in a relatively calm state of battle. Looking not far away, There were bandages wrapped around his private parts, and many parts of his body were in a state of being cut. In his hand, there was a sword that was not inferior to his own. Shea is right. This guy is different from the king I have seen. Whether it is the bragging guys in hell or the bolder I met in fate, their styles are completely different. The biggest difference is in the domain. This guy actually hid his domain in his body. If so, he would be affected by the scorched earth hell. No matter what, let's test her first. Malone slowly changed from walking to jogging. The frequency of turning the hilt also increased. With the activation of the core engine, even a large amount of fire splashed out from the blade. However, just as Malone was about to enter the attack range, Zhan Huang suddenly shifted his center of gravity, straightened his left leg, and returned the famous sword to his waist, making a standard sword-drawing posture. The bandage wrapped around his wrist automatically gathered into a scabbard structure, and his aura suddenly skyrocketed. One heart, sword draw, a strong sense of danger rose in Malone's heart. It had been a long time since he had felt this way. The slash that was nearly 100 meters diagonally struck from the front, annihilating all the sand in its path. In the blink of an eye, a several hundred-meter-long slash mark appeared in the desert, and Malone, who had been hit head-on, was pushed 100 meters away. Before the sand in the air dispersed, Malone's voice was heard. So that's how it is. Is this the purpose of restraining one's domain? Increase your attack power to the maximum. Slowly, Malone's figure appeared. Scorching hot blood was dripping continuously. Maintain the same posture. He still dragged his weapon to the ground and did not use it to block the terrifying slash just now. Instead, he completely turned his left arm into a devil's hand and used his palm to block Zhan Huang's slash. The price he paid for this was that the pitch-black claw-shaped devil's palm was cut about 10 centimeters deep, reaching the depth of his wrist, and the devil's blood kept dripping. Compared to Malone, who was shocked by the power of the slash, Zhan Huang was even more surprised. That slash just now had gathered her artistic conception, and it was a serious slash. Under the situation of a direct hit, it was only injured to this extent. For a moment, Zhan Huang's state of mind changed. The clear lake in her heart began to be dyed black by sin. Or it could be said that this was the state of mind that a sinful life should have during a battle. The blade returned to the scabbard. 12 trials whoosh. Sword draw. This sword draw felt completely different from the previous one. It even felt like an attack from a different person. The moment the sword was drawn, no blade appeared. Instead, it created a kind of artistic conception that symbolized sin and affected reality. With Malone as the center, a total of 12 giant skeletons that symbolized sin appeared around him. They were of different shapes. Some had lanterns on their heads, some had babies in their bellies, and some had copper coins hanging on their arms. They all held samurai swords in their hands, and at the same time, they swung different types of sin slashes. All paths of retreat were blocked, and there were different slashes from all angles. It was extremely tricky. Facing such a scene, Malone revealed a smile with a different kind of interest. Whoosh! He stabbed the weapon in his hand into the ground and freed his right hand. It seemed like he didn't intend to use his weapon to block such an attack. He muttered a string of words in the devil's language. Black blood vessels with sharp thorns bulged on his arms, and his skin was as black and tattered as scorched earth. Both of his arms were 100% demonized. At the same time, 2 exaggerated devil horns grew on his forehead. Then, he adopted a unique parry posture. This posture didn't come from hell, but was a basic skill that Malone first learned in the Crusader Academy. Come! His angry roar spread out a shockwave of 1,000 meters in the desert. Facing 12 different slashes from different directions, styles, strengths, and even attributes in Malone's eyes, it was like going through the basic training in the past. In the case where the body was strong enough. The back of the hand, the bottom of the palm, the wrist, and the elbow, as long as they were used to the extreme, they could block the opponent's weapon attack. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of weapons colliding that could tear an ordinary person's eardrums continued to spread. The 12 slashes that symbolized the judgment of sin were all blocked by Malone, and most of them were bounced off by skill. One of the slashes was at a tricky angle, and Malone had to forcibly crush it with his palm. His arms were cut in many places, and blood kept flowing out, but none of the slashes hurt the inner layer. At the same time, after being attacked in succession, Malone's anger level increased to a certain level. The moment he blocked all the attacks, he grabbed the tyrant that was stuck in the ground. Buzz! He twisted the hilt, and hot purgatory lava and the devil's howl came out together. His legs kicked the ground. He soared into the air and was at the same level as the 12 skeletons. Slaughterhouse, a horizontal slash with heavy blood, minced meat, and lava formed in the air. All the skeletons were cut in half at the waist, and the wounds made a terrifying sound that was similar to the sound of bones being crushed in a slaughterhouse. Visible to the naked eye, the giant skeletons were all sucked in and turned into bone dust. Upon closer inspection, the tyrant in Malone's hand seemed to have become sharper, and the meat seemed to have become denser. At the same time, Malone, who was soaring in the air, had already locked his eyes on Emperor Slayer, who was hundreds of meters away. Whoosh! A pair of demon wings spread out on his back. The spread of the wings, coupled with the release of anger, created several sonic booms during the dive, and the speed was incredible. Hellsword Burial, outside London. Suddenly, a sword-shaped tombstone that was full of blood and violence rose up, and the wind that it raised even affected London. Chapter 1390. This slash even slowed down the war that was breaking out all over London by a second. Looking at the Hellsword Burial thousands of meters away, one would feel a faint sense of pain and fear. Not only the enemy, but even the hybrid demons felt the same. Malone's attack was a pure and indiscriminate destruction. It directly caused the ground within a radius of 5 miles to collapse and the sand to sink, along with the shattered rock stratum and a large amount of metal sand. It fell into the underground mine that had been emptied by the arms company. Pandora's largest pyrolite mine and snow storage area was once called Pyrolite Paradise. Malone, holding the tyrant blade, steadily landed on a stable platform about 500 meters underground. The Emperor Slayer was not far away. To be precise, it should be the remains of the Emperor Slayer. Whoosh! The true path of Lumen was inserted into the ground. Immediately after crackle, the Emperor Slayer's limbs were completely crushed and fell one by one. All the limbs fell on the throne with the 7 famous swords hanging on it. Malone, who used Hellsword Burial, was slightly exhausted. However, he naturally would not miss such a good opportunity to defeat the enemy's king. He forcibly suppressed the blood in his body and raised his sword. Who knew? Just as he was about 10 meters away, the scattered limbs were forcibly connected by the sinful threads and quickly pieced together an arm. He lifted the true path of Lumen and slashed, and the power was not weak at all. He took it head-on. The demon's palm blocked in front of him, and his fingers tightly clasped the blade. This slash forced Malone back 100 meters. From the open wound on his palm, strange, sinful threads continued to overflow. In addition to the pain, there was also a strange feeling as if something was affecting his body. Malone muttered, "The body, is it a sword? The body is just a piece used to control the body." In order to kill the enemy, to the greatest extent, she actually gave up everything and turned herself into a weapon. What a terrifying person. However, I am stronger than her. Malone, who received the slash, slowly walked back to his original position. During this period of time, the Emperor Slayer's body had been completely restored. Even so, a large amount of sins were completely annihilated by the Hellsword Burial. His appearance changed. The bandages wrapped around his body were concentrated on his head. Together with the sinful threads at the core of his body, they formed a female head covered in bandages and with fluttering black hair. Beneath the bandages, one could vaguely see the eye sockets, the bridge of the nose, and the mouth through the gaps between the bandages. It no longer sounded through the vibrations of the blade. He spoke a common language that Malone could understand. The Black Tower's information regarding your world, S01, is indeed problematic. How could a human like you be enslaved by the hybrid demons? There should be a relatively equal set of survival rules between you two, right? I'm working on it. It's a very complicated world. Come to think of it, you're probably the strongest of all the kings of the same level I've fought. You're probably the strongest of the S01 humans, aren't you? Malone smiled brightly. Well, I'm working hard towards this goal. In terms of true strength, I don't know about the other cities, but I should be ranked third in the humans' holy city. Oh, right. It's the guy who just passed by you. In terms of killing ability, he's even better than me. When Malone mentioned this, Emperor Slayer immediately remembered that when she was about to kill the blood-related human, a figure mixed with the aura of death flashed past. It was also this change that made Emperor Slayer give up on killing the enemy and switch to defense. Even if she was just passing by quickly, she still felt a strong sense of death all over her body. Compared to the hellish pressure that Malone exerted, this sense of death from having a scythe at her throat was even more terrifying. There was even a moment when the aura of death wrapped around the body of the scythe instead of the body. London East District Sanctum of Reckoning. Dozens of mechanical god assistants spent a lot of energy to build the cathedral with the help of the Holy Knights, but it had already completely collapsed. There were even many buildings in the nearby streets that had been destroyed. Broken limbs of the Holy Knights could be seen everywhere. Olivia was currently hiding in a civilian building to treat her wounds. Her sacred and inviolable body of holiness had already been pierced through the side of her waist by more than 10 centimeters. She was currently healing the wound with the help of a holy weapon, but the regeneration speed was extremely slow. It was important to note that Olivia was currently only facing a mind-controlled body. If the other party's main body had come, she might have already died. Creak, creak, mechanical sounds of jamming could be heard from the stairwell. A broken machine with oil leaking from its body was slowly moving up the stairs. Listening to the sound, it seemed that it was still a distance away. Just as Olivia was about to move, whoosh, a laser pierced through the ground, shot through the sole of her foot, and even pierced through her entire calf. The pain that seeped into her bones and soul made Olivia unable to move. The next second, a machine that looked like the one in the movie Terminator appeared in front of her. It grabbed her head and lifted her into the air. Positron energy began to condense in its palm. Even Olivia, who had an extremely special constitution, would not be able to survive such a close-range hit. Threat assessment, 1%. Escape probability, 71%. I didn't expect that a human enslaved by the hybrid demons could reach this level. You're considered the top of the mythical stage. No wonder the Black Tower issued a recruitment order for the 4 worlds to jointly invade you. In the case of the same level, the quality is indeed much higher. You've wasted a lot of my time. During this time, I instinctively invaded the core of London, or at least Purge. Who? Because during the search for Olivia, the machine controlled by the mother's mind maintained a state of perception. Not only did it simulate the human sensory system, but it also radiated a type of program field in a large area. Just a moment ago, it accidentally captured an individual whose program could not identify and whose combat power could not be estimated. The threat level was much higher than the human woman in front of it. Because of the sudden incident, the mother's analysis and judgment changed the target. Turning the palm aimed at Olivia's head, it tilted down and fired a personal version of a positron cannon. The annihilating cannon energy penetrated the current building and destroyed an entire row of buildings on the side. Rumble as the entire building collapsed. Smoke and dust filled the streets. A skeletal black horse carried a knight hidden in a cloak back to the human residential area of London. It stopped just below the building where the incident occurred. Under the hood, silver hair and white eyes. His sunken cheeks made him look abnormally thin. Gently patting the horse, the skeletal horse left on its own. It seemed to disappear into the smoke and dust, but also seemed to go deep into the underworld. The silver scythe was drawn and slashed upward. Whoosh! The entire building was split into two. The machine that was staring at him was also completely cut open. Not only that, the machine's consciousness was connected to the core of the central building of Markmas City. A small scratch appeared on the surface of the metal ball of the mother's body. Bursts of death aura overflowed from the scratch. On the other side, this strike of the scythe caused the building to completely collapse. Olivia, who was injured in many places, was unable to gather holy light magic for a moment. Her entire body fell from a position near the top of the building. However, Alex did not make the corresponding movement to catch her. He allowed the holy lady to fall heavily on the concrete ground beside him. "Pah!" The sound was that of a soft-bones physique. Alex looked at her with a cold gaze. "This degree of fall should be fine, right? Once my body touches you, there will be a rejection worse than falling." Olivia bit her lip and slowly propped herself up. "It's okay. It's good that you're back. This is the information I collected. Be careful. The opponent's king is difficult to deal with." Chapter 1391. He stared at Olivia, who was trembling and having trouble even walking. Alex temporarily kept the silver scythe behind him and retracted all the overflowing death aura into his body. He pulled out a small knife without any death attribute from his waist. Without any superfluous words, he directly pressed Olivia's body and cut it open. The seemingly perverted murderer's actions completely removed the residual positrons on Olivia's wounds and the program that affected the rules. It was this kind of program that affected the foundation of matter that caused the wounds to be unable to heal. Although the idealistic belief that involved the forbidden doctrine might be able to forcefully cover the effects of the program and achieve instant recovery. However, it would bring great side effects to Olivia. If she was caught by the mother machine, she would still die. Buzz. Holy light spread out in the wounds, but the healing speed was not as fast as expected. The flesh was slowly growing back. Alex immediately showed a somewhat disgusted expression. The recovery speed is actually so slow. Staying in the church all year round and participating in too many meetings has caused your ability to degenerate. You were not at this level before. If not for Olivia's extremely good temper, she would have been angry. The opponent's territory can directly affect the mind and implant programs similar to mandatory command. The programs implanted in me include no escape, no holy light, no defense. However, these programs can be resisted through my own willpower, territory, or related abilities to reduce the effects of the programs. Due to the difference in level, I can't completely eliminate the effects. Well, is there any other information? Olivia explained the relevant information as briefly as possible, especially the mechanical control point. It was the first time Alex had encountered this type of enemy. It can actually completely copy the king's attributes into the body of the mechanical life under its command without any reduction in ability. The only price is that it will cause an extremely high body load to be controlled. After a period of control, it will self-destruct. I have never seen such an ability before. No wonder the killing just now felt so strange. Death instinct did not stop at the surface of the wreckage, but pursued it outside the city. After saying that, Alex looked outside the city. It was the opposite direction from when he entered the city. It was the Markmas City that had tricked him and Malone. Is the real body there? It had already been 2 minutes since I killed the target, but there were no controlled machines coming to me. It seemed like they didn't intend to waste any time on me. The other party's goal is clear: to damage the foundations of London and cause us to lose our sanctuary. This way, even if they are defeated, they can leave the world through a special passage. But we don't have the protection of the entire city, so it's difficult for us to cross planes. In the end, we will be left behind with the world. What a troublesome opponent. Olivia, can you find a place to hide? I have to go now. He did not wait for Olivia to respond. Whoosh! The silver sickle slashed out. He wasn't trying to kill the enemy. Instead, he was trying to open up a path to the death plane. Apart from Alex, anyone who dared to enter this plane would quickly die. Of course, a few individuals who possessed the same attribute of death might be able to enter. The interior corresponded to the city of London with a black and white background. Individuals who died in the war, regardless of whether they were allies or enemies, floated above their corpses in the form of ghosts. Death Plane, London. This area wasn't set up temporarily by Alex. As early as 4 months ago, Alex came to London and obtained a certain level of human authority. Every day, he covered himself with a cloak and walked through the streets of London, burying death coordinates in many corners. During this period, he was accidentally seen through by the eyes of the fifth origin, Eugene. Naturally, he was scared out of his wits. In subsequent meetings, when the great demon leader proposed the overall battle plan, he also included the establishment of the death plane and obtained his mother's permission. This was the complete realization of the death plane. All the souls of the defeated in London would be affected by the plane and would be dealt with by Alex. It was important to note that the essence of the plane was death. It was impossible to resurrect the dead. However, Alex could completely erase the souls of the enemy's dead. Once the souls were erased, no matter what resurrection spell was used in the real world, they could not be resurrected. The most important point was, Alex could use all the dead as coordinates and quickly travel through the death plane. When he first slashed the machinery controlled by the mother, the surface of the sickle was also stained with a wisp of vitality that belonged to the mother. Like a marked prey, as long as the mother appeared in London, Alex could easily locate it in the death plane. West side of London, dark secret word in, a liquid robot was searching for traces of hybrid demons in a completely dark guest room. Its body was suddenly entangled by a kind of sucker tentacle that could bind liquid. The dark residents hiding here could reveal their true form and drive the pollution array set up under their feet. Black spots that symbolized pollution appeared on the surface of the liquid robot, and it could be completely corroded within a minute. Who knew? The feeling that the robot gave people suddenly changed. Buzz. Red laser beams shot out from the mechanical eyes. As the neck turned, it instantly swept 360 degrees. Not only were the surrounding hybrid demons killed, but the entire building was smoothly cut open. It was just as Alex had guessed. The mother had no intention of fighting with him at all. After the human residential area on the east side was killed, it immediately controlled the machinery in the west side of the city and quickly massacred the city. Liquid type, the program in the body has been compiled into a prototype of a mythical creature. Quite a good body. The mother finished controlling and was about to leave. An aura of death that made her heart palpitate came from behind her. The strange thing was that the program field that the mother spread out didn't analyze any space fluctuations. She couldn't understand how the other party caught up so quickly. What's going on? When the mother turned around, a terrifying scene that exceeded her information database was displayed. The hybrid demon's body that had just been cut in half by the laser was suddenly torn from the back. Shrouded in a cloak, the Grim Reaper holding a silver scythe drilled out of the wound. It was really like the Grim Reaper in the myths that announced the end of life. No matter where one fled to, one couldn't escape. The mother didn't have time to condense an energy beam in her palm. The scythe had already slashed through her body. This slash was different from the one that destroyed the building just now. It didn't break anything, but only gently slashed through her soul. Die. A second later, only the metal liquid scattered on the ground was left in front of her. The expression under the hood wasn't good at all. As expected of the king, he deliberately didn't launch an attack just now. Instead, he focused on the handling of my attack. Although the scythe faintly touched the body, it was still a long distance away. It must go deeper. The concept created by the scythe, cutting through the metal, was like Alex was riding a submarine and diving in the metal sea. And in the depths of the sea, there was a perfect woman squatting. Just like that. No matter how the mother changed its position, Alex could quickly lock onto it with the help of the death plane and completely block the mother's movements. However, Alex could only do so much. Once he left and went to Markham's to find the mother's true body, London would definitely be destroyed by the mother during this period. For a time, The battle between the kings of both sides fell into a stalemate. This stalemate accelerated the development of the battle. There seemed to be an uneasy force in Markham City that was ready to make a move. And outside the city, there seemed to be two forces that had begun to move. Chapter 1392. Markham City Data Center. The Mother Matrix was using an extremely conservative state to constantly consume the host to deal with death. She never took the initiative to attack. Every time she fought with death, she would focus more on herself to ensure that death's attack would not harm her body through the mind of the host. This way, she could temporarily restrict the opponent and continuously collect information about death. From basic abilities, common attack patterns, and coping habits in different situations, to death's attack characteristics, damage composition, and even integrating the Black Tower's information to deduce death's corresponding world. Correlation, Superworld, Special, Divine Atlas. It is suspected to have a deep relationship with Greek gods, Tarados, to be able to establish a deep connection with the core of this world. It is no wonder that it has such a terrifying attack and death perception. However, without the support of the throne, something is always missing. 70% of the Mother CPU continued to be responsible for Alex's data collection, and the remaining 30% began to set up the real hybrid demon elimination plan. A map of London was projected. This map was detailed to every corner, every street, and the number of every building. At the same time, it also marked the hybrid demon density, darkness coverage, and building characteristics and related attributes in different areas. The source of this information was completely dependent on the vanguard. It was London that couldn't withstand the pressure from the Mother's various directions. After abandoning the city wall defense line, the troops that invaded the city of London fully invaded. Such a vanguard wasn't about how many hybrid demons they had to kill, nor was it about invading the core of London. The reason why they were ordered to search all corners and buildings in the form of a small team instead of a large team was to collect information. In order to launch a true general attack and send out all the risks to disintegrate the enemy. There was also an unexpected gain. Emperor Slayer, who returned midway, directly stabbed the defenseless London, completely exposing the Mother's palace hidden deep underground. At present, a small number of teams had gone there and successfully obtained some useful information. In addition, the damage of the vanguard was slightly greater than the weaker hybrid demons, except that they had already investigated. The fundamental reason was that the mythical body was not included in it, except for the masked man, who tried to violate the battle plan and leave the masked incarnation in the original body, sneaking into the vanguard to collect living materials. None of the mythical bodies acted on their own. They were all in the vicinity of the teleportation crystal. There seemed to be a special connection between the main body and the crystal. Their souls were inlaid with a miniature crystal structure. Such exquisite craftsmanship was achieved by the Titan as a blacksmith. Previously, Markham City had detected the arrival of Grim Reaper and Malone. They immediately used the connection between their bodies and the crystal to hide in the underground mine area, quietly waiting for the arrival of the next stage. The two kings who went out have won us too many opportunities. London's basic intelligence has been gathered ahead of time, and the hybrid demon extermination plan has been fully launched. All the information collected so far had been transmitted to the brains of every mythical body. Apart from the city's information, it also included the information on the hybrid demon mythical bodies that they had gathered, allowing them to grasp all opportunities. At the same time, a series of program codes had been implanted into their bodies by the Mother in advance. Following the special radio waves from Markham City, the codes were activated by the implantation of the encryption key. This kind of code was not a small program that the Mother spread through the domain during battle. Instead, it was through the precise programming of the Mother body, coupled with the open-source program implanted in the depths of the consciousness by professional instruments. One could reach the root of the individual. It was not as simple as stimulating potential. Instead, a part of the Mother body's perception was shared with them through the open source program. This was not an ordinary perception, but the true king perception of the mother body being crowned as a king. The perception was perfectly integrated into the soul through the open source program, making it convenient for them to digest and understand. Through the support of the program framework, this group of mythical bodies selected from the four worlds was brought to a higher level. Although it was not to the level of a king, it could allow them to be infinitely close to the king's membrane. Their mastery and use of their own abilities would rise to a higher level. This was the horror of the mother body. It was also the fundamental reason why Black Dragon, Emperor Slayer, and the blacksmith were willing to use the mother body as the main body to launch various combat plans. However, although the code appeared to be very exquisite, it was essentially an external aid. Once it was not used well, or due to external interference, there might be a more serious backlash. There was still the last and most important step of stabilization that had not been completed, and this step needed the Titan blacksmith to personally achieve it. However, after Markham City released the extremely penetrating wireless signal, there was no response from the blacksmith. Logically speaking, the steel space forged by the blacksmith to restrict the great demon captain could accept wireless signals. According to the plan, once the hybrid demon elimination plan began, he should appear directly. The mother body immediately sent a more penetrating signal that was located in the steel space. Phone B. Kryman, what are you doing? Hurry up and activate the stabilization device and break through London in one fell swoop. There was still no movement in the steel space. Only intermittent signals were barely transmitted back. I am not in a good situation. Can't. The mini crystal can play a certain role. Carry out the plan first. After all the mythical bodies enter the city, activate. Huh. The mother body was quite surprised. In her observation of this cooperation world, the blacksmith 3 sent by the world of Saint was the king with the highest functionality, high attribute values, and the most stable. Whether it was the construction of Markham City, the construction of various special equipment, or various plans, they were inseparable from the blacksmith. His comprehensive strength was also very strong. In the current one-on-one situation, there was a feeling of being unable to free himself and falling into a bitter battle. Since the blacksmith said that the crystal embedded in the mythical body could play a part of the stabilization effect, they could only omit the last step and forcibly carry out the elimination plan. When the mythical bodies entered the city, the blacksmith would free himself to give them complete stabilization. All troops attack. The teleportation crystal drilled out of the ground and appeared again around London. Mythical bodies with different styles appeared one after another, but their state at this time was completely different from the beginning. Not only that, but there were also a large number of light beams descending near the teleportation crystal. Markham City still retained a large number of special forces. A group of siege troops created by the mother body combined with the resources of the main body and the captured hybrid demons were painstakingly created. They were also known as the Terminator of hybrid demons. At the same time, outside the battlefield area, the station area closest to London, waves of uneasiness were spreading. Chapter 1393. Amber Highway Station, combining the raw materials provided by Herbalin and the technical support given by the robot Goldie, a highly precise and well-hidden telescope was created. It was specially designed for Han Dong and needed to be used together with the magic eye. Such a device allowed Han Dong to observe the specific situation of the battle from the outside without intervening in the war. The moment Emperor Slayer returned, Han Dong was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. As expected, Emperor Slayer, who was trapped in the secret room, didn't struggle at all. He was quietly waiting for an opportunity. Although the design of the device designed by the handsome Jack to trap a king is somewhat unreliable, its function is definitely able to restrict a king. If you want to break it, you have to pay an equivalent price. The separation of the carriage should have been noticed by Emperor Slayer, who seized the opportunity to break it with all his strength. What's more frightening is that Emperor Slayer's obsession with the slash is too pure. While he was restrained, his realm actually improved. The power of his slash just now was much stronger than when he was dealing with us. After thinking about it, Han Dong accepted the situation in front of him. The purpose of Han Dong's trip was to seize control of Herbalin. In the case of the enemy's king, he still achieved his goal and even delayed Emperor Slayer's arrival to the battlefield by a full 30 minutes. Soon, the timely return of Malone and Grim Reaper also made Han Dong breathe a sigh of relief. Han Dong also carefully watched the King Tyr battle outside the city. The strength displayed by Malone was completely beyond his expectations. It was extremely terrifying. In addition, there was an extremely important detail that Han Dong observed: the space crystal. Sure enough, the enemy never thought of taking down London in one go. After the enemy's mythical bodies lifted the defense line in London, they still did not make any moves and stayed next to the crystal. When Malone and Grim Reaper arrived, they took the crystal and hid it underground. The purpose of the first group of Suicide Squad to enter the city was to collect information about the inner city. After all, in the eyes of the enemy, London was the nest of the hybrid demons. The king, who controlled the world network, should be able to quickly integrate the information of all the teams and quickly organize detailed information about London. Because of the balance principle, the number of kings was equal, and in the end, it would evolve into a situation of mutual restraint. Since the other party didn't seize the plan to attack London before Malone and Death returned, the real decisive power would be on the mythical form and the main force. I estimate that once the two kings enter a stalemate, the other side will definitely launch an all-out attack. Thinking of this, Han Dong hesitated for a long time before making an important decision. Since Han Dong's cranial nerves were connected to Grim and Miss Helen throughout the whole process, they shared the view of the telescope. Grim was amazed by the battle between the kings, especially the strength of the human kings. He was so excited that his whole body trembled, and he didn't want to rush to the battlefield because he was bored. Han Dong turned around and looked at the two of them seriously. Grim, you and Miss Helen will use the open space of the underground mine to sneak back to London from the south. Remember to avoid hostile, mythical entities. We must start now and get back to London before the general attack is made. It's not enough to just be guided by the third prime, Aslan. All 10 of you must be stationed in the city. The other side must have hidden trump cards that we don't know about in this general attack. Once there's a problem with the internal defense, the front line may be compressed to the inner circle in a short time. However, if Grim and Miss Helen return and bring back the information we've collected here, we'll definitely be able to formulate countermeasures. Grim didn't care. After all, there were fights inside and outside the city. Compared to the Emperor Slayer that he had already played, he would rather go to the city and play with other kings. Helen agreed with Han Dong's proposal, and the hundreds of miniature skulls that formed the skull knotted together. Han Dong continued, "When the time is right, I'll join forces with another batch of Black Rivers lurking outside to provide pressure from the outside. See you later." The robot Goldie had quickly built a set of efficient, quiet, and secretive man drilling machine through the workbench. When the Herbalin Company secretly mined pyrolite, they used this kind of machine. Before leaving, Grim reached out and poked a hole in Goldie's shoulder. "If there's any danger, use the same method to call me. Don't die. This stage play can't be without you." "Don't worry, I won't die." The drilling machine, printed with the Herbalin Company's logo, successfully carried the two back to London secretly. Not long after that, it was just as Han Dong had guessed. A situation of mutual restraint gradually formed between the kings, and the war node arrived as scheduled. The mythical bodies of the enemy and the space crystals emerged from the ground. However, it was a little strange. Just through the visual image obtained through the telescope, Han Dong could see the difference. "What's going on?" The mythical bodies give me a different feeling from before. There's an indescribable sense of danger. However, before he could figure out this matter, another troublesome thing followed. Tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of light beams descended near different space crystals, and the number exceeded Han Dong's expectations. However, the most terrifying thing wasn't the number, but the individual state of the soldiers. Their appearance was different from the known four great worlds, and there was a strange energy mixed in their bodies. At this time, the robot Goldie on the side raised its hands and spun around crazily. Oh, my God, have these guys been to the secret space? It shouldn't be. The secret had been completely absorbed by the handsome Jack a long time ago. How could it fall into the hands of these guys? It's over. What secret? The real secret hidden in Pandora is different from the pyrolite mine. It's an ultimate treasure that can allow individuals to grow rapidly and give them a super body. Countless treasure hunters have come to Pandora at the cost of their lives to pursue it. Even the production of pyrolite is closely related to the secret. Many scholars even believe that pyrolite is a super technological substance after ordinary or has been exposed to radiation from a secret. However, there is only one real secret, and it has been obtained by the handsome Jack. Boss, you should have seen Jack's seemingly ordinary attack method can become a powerful attack that can destroy cities and even satellites. This is the power given by the secret, and it's called super body. That's true. Han Dong recalled the scene of the handsome Jack shooting with an ordinary revolver. It looked like an ordinary shot, but once it hit, death was inevitable. Since there is only one secret, these guys shouldn't have gotten a second one, right? Otherwise, the arms company that once ruled Pandora would have gotten it long ago. Besides, although these soldiers do look special, they are far from being as terrifying as Jack. If I were to guess, the other party didn't get the real secret, but the secret remnants collected through science and technology. That is, the excess parts that Jack didn't absorb and even excreted from his body. Then, through existing scientific and technological means, they are copied into the bodies of the mechanical soldiers. Goldie quickly calmed down. The soldiers in the picture were indeed not as exaggerated as obtaining the secret. They only had some light patterns on the surface of their bodies that symbolized the secret. Yes, otherwise, this battle really won't end. I'm nervous. After all, the day the handsome Jack got the secret, it left a psychological shadow on me. Han Dong's eyes were gloomy. Although it's just some remnants, it can more or less bring about improvement and even give some new abilities. Letting Green and Miss Helen go back early is a wise choice. This will put a lot of pressure on the inner city. Almost. Let's get ready to go. Chapter 1394. Markham's Metal City. This city gathered the core technology of the Mother's world, and at the same time, it also received the assistance of Blacksmith 3. In addition to the terrifying annihilation weapon of the positron cannon, there was also a set of munitions factories directly managed by the Mother. Here, the bodies of the people were constantly being manufactured. The corresponding world of the Matrix was a brand new world ruled by machines against humans, but it also used humans to find the ultimate answer. In the Black Tower's archive room, the world was called the Matrix. It was completely different from the metal, machinery, and wasteland style of Pandora. The world of the Mother seemed to be controlled by machines, but its life unit was a program. Machines were just a shell they used to interfere with the physical world. Therefore, from the outbreak of the war until now, the side with the least loss of troops was the Mother. The main purpose of packaging Markham City was not to prevent theft. It was to radiate a program network that covered the entire city of London. A network system that could quickly transfer programs with Markham City as a base station. To some extent, it was similar to the Death Plane, London created by Death. Before the mechanical soldiers were about to die, or when they felt that they were about to be killed, they only needed to abandon the metal shell and return to Markham City through the program network. Then, they could complete the resurrection with the mechanical shell on the production line. Similarly, those machines that were directly controlled by the Mother were essentially a kind of program replacement. The final loss was just the shell that could be produced without limit. This was the true strength of the Mother and its world system. In the production workshop that occupied about 1/4 of Markham City, the entire production system was more responsible than expected. To create a shell that could exert the full power of the program, it was not just a model similar to a figurine. The foundation of these shells was still inseparable from humans. With the human bones that remained active as a framework, combined with the most advanced technological processes, they created cuppable shells that could adapt to different kinds of programs. However, the production workshop also had a special area. The high-quality shells that met the standards were sent here. The high-level program, under the Mother's command, would implant the secret treasure remnants into this batch of high-quality shells. As the robot Goldie said, there was only one copy of Pandora's secret treasure. When a mother later found the secret treasure space, there was nothing left. However, after the Mother's program coverage and detailed scan, she discovered a secret room that had already collapsed and was almost swallowed by the shattered space. A secret monster that was once killed by the handsome Jack was buried at the bottom of the secret room. When he brought back monster carcasses and used cutting-edge technology to extract a large amount of secret treasure remnants. Even though the density was far from that of the real secret treasure, the amplification effect it brought was astonishing. Since it was extracted from a monster's body, there were more or less impurities mixed in, and there were corresponding side effects. The dragon descendants and blacksmiths had decent physiques, so they could barely endure it. However, their physical characteristics would also change. It even affected their future development. In the end, they refused to accept the remnants of the secret trove. Only the program group, under the Mother, could avoid the negative effects of the secret treasure after the war through formatting. Therefore, the remnants of the secret treasure only used mechanical troops. The name of the project was finalized as Terminator of Hybrid Demons. A brand new production line was built, and the most advanced management program was jointly responsible for the project with the Mother body. Batches of mechanical shells labeled as super machines were smoothly produced, quietly waiting for the war to begin. All troops attack. At this moment, a group of combat machines in the city self-destructed. Thousands of small mushroom clouds with electric light flashing rose in the city of London. Many important hybrid demon buildings and dark areas were blown up. The program returned, and all the programs left in Markham City were implanted into the super machines, according to their own equipment. The image of the super machines was similar to the skeletal frame machines in Terminator. This image was due to the erosion of the shell by the remnants of the secret trove. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A beam of light descended. A group of more than 100,000 Terminator troops instantly assembled outside the city. Led by 11 mythical bodies, the massacre was dead, so there were originally 12. They launched a general attack on the city of London. At the same time, the Mother body also reported the information of the general attack to the vanguard troops fighting in the city through the program network. Whether it was through the breath of sin, searching for the target's sinful spirit, or burning the dark dragon descendants with dragon breath, or the blacksmiths who had fought against the hybrid demons in advance gathered at the city gate. When the time came, they would integrate into the main force and use the detailed information compiled by the Mother body to flatten the area. In the city of London, more than 10 minutes ago, Grimm and Helen had successfully returned on the drilling machine. As soon as he got off the car, Grimm ordered Helen beside him, "Go and report the information collected by Nicholas to the priest, and then wait for me at the Ice Mountain." Ice Mountain? Aslan's place? Didn't he do something called joint operations before? I'm suddenly interested in this kind of boring plan. When you get there, ask him to wait for a while. Oh, okay. Grimm shuttled through the streets as fast as he could, killing a few intruders along the way. He followed a hidden street and arrived at the area of Han Dong's manor. As the manor only had a secret entrance and exit, and at the same time, it was guarded by a mythical dragon, no enemy troops had invaded this place. Sally Hope, come here, quickly. You two go directly to the Ice Mountain. Sally, the black goat who was crowned as the mistress. When she saw Grim coming back alone, her eyes were a little wet. She even put aside her fear of Grim and hurried forward to ask, "Where's Nicholas? Where's he? What are you worried about? Since I'm still alive, how can I let him die? That kid is outside the city, and he has a pretty good local army in his hands. Later, he will cooperate with us to act in an epic stage play." "That's good." Sally calmed down after knowing that Han Dong was fine. "Go to Aslan's place now? What about Nicholas Manor? Since I've returned to the city, this crazy dragon can be my abyss portal at any time. If there's any problem with the manor, I'll know. Don't talk nonsense. Let's go quickly." "Okay." Sally stepped on the goat's hooves and rushed to the ice mountain with hope. She couldn't help but look back at Grim. She didn't know if it was her illusion. Although the crazy aura around Grim became denser, the feeling that Grim gave her was a little different. As if it was easier to talk to him, Grim didn't stay in the manor for too long, whistling as he rushed to the British Library. "Really, battle plans and whatnot are not suitable for me. But thinking about the upcoming war, it's quite interesting." Clang! He kicked the library's door, his hands spread to the side of his mouth, and shouted loudly, "Pope, you haven't left the city yet, right? Hyde should also be here with you. I can smell the stinky, fishy smell across the street. Do you want to cooperate with me again? I have some very explosive information here. Maybe London will really fall. If you want to know, immediately go to Aslan's Ice Mountain. We haven't gotten together for a long time. Also, call Vader on the surface of the celestial body. Don't miss out." Grim turned around and left after finishing his report, whistling as he went to the last area. It was a ward that Han Dong had applied for special patients. A filthy and evil substance had already spread outside the ward. Creak! Grim pushed open the door. In the corner, a sutured youth who was drawing circles on the wall while hanging himself turned his head and asked with an expectant face, "Brother Grim, are you here to kill me? I'm taking you to participate in an operation with a high mortality rate. Come on, kid." "Okay." Chapter 1395. Ice Mountain Demon Palace. Long hair of ice flames floated in the air. Wearing a slim white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, his small eyes were staring at a custom-made chessboard. I didn't expect that this group of humans could really restrain the opponent's king. No wonder such a human army could get permission from the Void and participate in this game with almost equal status with us. Thinking about it, these few must be the top existences carefully selected by the human world. This game is also related to the issue of their sovereignty in the future. The stalemate between the kings has been formed, and it's finally my turn to make a move. Because of Aslan's identity as the speaker, he had already obtained the command power during the Origin Conference and had the right to mobilize the forces behind the other Origins, except for Grim and Pope. From the outbreak of the war until now, he had been hiding in the Ice Mountain. He was waiting for this opportunity to avoid the king-level threat, so that his contribution in the London game could be highlighted to the greatest extent. Moreover, the best news was that Grim had followed the Evernight Bishop to perform a special mission outside the city. When the time came, he would launch a pincer attack on the enemy from outside the city, so it wouldn't affect his battle plan in the city. "Eugenius, are you ready?" The green-haired Eugenius was polishing the stone spear. Groups of bubble-like eyes kept appearing and disappearing on his forehead. It seemed that he was communicating with the stone spear through a special way. "Yes. What do you plan to use your group of Shugas? This is a terrifying army that the enemy can adapt to in a short time. The use of Meat Mountain and Shugas is up to me. This is the agreement we reached in advance, right?" Aslan narrowed his eyes and looked over. "Yes, I believe in your personal judgment, Eugenius. After all, you have a heavy burden on your shoulders. For a race like you who doesn't have the support of a real old king and is divided in the South Pole because of limited reproduction, all the pressure is concentrated on you, the Origin. If you want to get out of this predicament, your performance in this game must be outstanding enough. Maybe you can clear the name of your Shugas in advance, and even win the throne in advance." TSK, Eugenius didn't respond. He slowly put the stone spear back into the sarcophagus and carried it on his back. Although he was dissatisfied with Aslan, what he said just now was not wrong. This game was too important for Han Dong. He needed to use some external forces to highlight his contribution in the game. The way to obtain Han Dong's body was almost completely blocked. Aslan rotated the magic stone in her palm and was about to enter the battle. The familiar fragrance of flowers and plants accompanied by an artistic conception that could calm one's mind arrived. Helen panted as she rushed to the entrance of the iceberg cave. "Helen, why are you here? I received a message saying that you, Grimm, and that young bishop formed a team and headed out of the city together." Helen's appearance caused Aslan to become uneasy, so much so that he could faintly smell a trace of madness from Helen's body. "There's been a change in the situation. Grimm asked me to come here in advance. All of the origin substance should be gathering here." As soon as he finished speaking, a void gate that was stable and unrestricted by the domain opened within the demon's denver. It was a fishy smell unique to the deep sea. It surpassed the high-energy reaction of everyone present, and an irresistible thought that came together. First, a huge mermaid's foot stepped out. Wet dark blue hair hung down on both sides of the gill-like cheeks. The long face in the shape of a crescent moon matched with the huge mermaid's physique. It was extremely oppressive. Supreme Honorable One, High Darius, the young man with a hole in his chest and a rotating red planet inside, followed closely behind. His eyes were flickering with uneasiness. King Star, Vader Cousins had a special mission in this battle. Finally, Pope with a starry head also walked out. His gaze stopped on Helen. "Grimm hasn't arrived yet? Helen, you should know the specific situation. Just say it." Helen was just about to explain herself when she heard Zhang Xian's words. A heavy black goat's hoof stepped into the iceberg. It even caused the entire iceberg to shake slightly. At the same time, there was another young man with a physique even more exaggerated than High Darius. He bent down slightly and squeezed into the iceberg. Black Goat Sally and Hominid Hope had arrived. Sally interrupted the ongoing conversation. "It should be a very important matter. I've never seen Grimm gather all of us on his own accord. Let's wait for him to arrive first." Just as she finished speaking, everyone present, including Bop, felt their hearts tighten. Many parts of their bodies contracted unnaturally. A crazy voice came from outside the cave. "Sally, I didn't expect you to understand me so well. It's a pity that Nicholas is very interested in you. Otherwise, I'd really like to try and see what kind of quality our offspring can achieve. Since everyone is here, Helen will be in charge of explaining the situation. I hope that everyone can work together at this time. The enemy this time is very interesting. Maybe some of us will die on the battlefield." When Grimm said this, Kit Lanier, who had the title of Evil Devil Root, immediately revealed a yearning and excited look. The air became polluted, just as Helen finished explaining the enemy's information observed from the outside. Why? The mythical celestial body above the city sounded a danger alarm. King Star, Vader projected the scene outside the city from the celestial body in front of everyone's eyes through the connection between stars. Pope, who was beside him, immediately put a hand on Vader's shoulder to obtain more direct information. Such an observation made Pope sweat profusely. There were even unstable meteors streaking across his transparent, galaxy-like brain. There's something wrong with the mythical body next to the teleportation crystal. It's not just a change in aura and strength. The overall level seems to have been forcefully raised by a method that I can't understand. It's close to the king. Moreover, the soldiers that are continuously descending are mixed with a very strange energy. The number has exceeded 100,000 and is still increasing. The vanguard troops that are active in the city have also begun to gather at the city gate area. Grimm, who saw such a tense scene, kept licking his face with his tongue. Nicholas guessed it right. The pressure in the inner city is not ordinary, forcefully raising the mythical body's level. So strong. Immediately, Grimm turned his gaze to the ice flame youth. Aslan, Assign the corresponding forces behind everyone to different areas for defense. Otherwise, it'll be really dangerous. Father Lesos and the remaining human troops could each block one or two of the attack points. The remaining gaps will be filled by us. With the 10 of us working together, it shouldn't be too much of a problem to deal with mythical bodies that are close to the king, right? I'm really looking forward to it. It was very strange. Including Pope, it was the first time they saw Grimm personally arrange a battle strategy. The madman who used to act alone and did not do things according to common sense had undergone a great change for some reason. Chapter 1396. Aslan Barbo was an absolute egoist. In his heart, Grimm was someone he could never offend. If there were any conflicts between him and Grimm, he would have to pay a huge price to make up for it. The price would definitely be higher than the control of the military forces. Moreover, the situation was indeed unclear. Even if Aslan were to command, he would still follow Grimm's suggestion of zoning defense to deal with the enemy's upcoming general attack. Aslan's expression did not reveal any unhappiness because Grimm had seized control. Instead, he maintained his squinted eyes and smile. He agreed with Grimm's plan and gave a corresponding analysis. According to the enemy's layout, the army will attack from 11 directions at the same time. How much can we block here? The secret Void Society behind Pope needs to be responsible for the space refraction device to avoid the direct bombardment of the positron cannons. Naturally, they can't leave. Pope came here alone due to his birth issue, so he didn't have a corresponding force. Kid himself was very unstable, not to mention the group of ancient evil creatures that came out from the ground. It would be better to let them continue to occupy the sewers, which could also serve as a form of defense. The mythical celestial body behind Vader has an important meaning in the overall battle plan. It can't be used for zoning defense. Then, Brother Grimm, you and Miss Helen should be able to transfer out the forces behind you, right? Grimm dug his teeth with his fingers. Well, it's a bit of pity. When we were moving outside the city, we accidentally encountered the enemy's king. Insect Lord Gudda, and more than 10 crazy bugs were all eaten by me. I can't bring out any combat power for the time being. Helen should be okay, right? The Moon Lady's condition is almost recovered. As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned. Pope was the first to ask, "You encountered the king outside the city? Did Nicholas use void transference to bring you away?" It can't be. That guy's void transference is not pure. Even with the help of the void toad, it's impossible to escape the king's domain. Grimm didn't feel much about it. In his heart, he only felt that it was a pity that he didn't kill the king. There's nothing to say about this. Aslan, you can continue. Oh, okay. Aslan was stunned. Although he had tried to fight against legend in the northern continent, he did not dare to consider the king that was of a higher level. He admitted that he could not surpass this kind of detection that involved the rules. Since that's the case, the only forces we can use now are Northern Incontinent, Flock, Roshan and Shugas, Dreamland Witches, and Deep Sea. At most, it can only block off 5 areas. At this point, Bop reminded him, don't use Eugene's forces for now. It's necessary to consider the worst-case scenario. Aslan smiled awkwardly. If that's the case, we can only block off 4 regions. Mother's Magus Legion is also on standby outside the city. The Church of Evernight under Father Lesos can block off 2 regions at most. There were at most 2 human troops stationed in the city. It's not enough. The other party has 11 mythical bodies attacking at the same time. The next second, a palm that sent chills down Aslan's spine landed lightly on her shoulder. Unknowingly, Grimm had quietly approached her. Why do you have to calculate it so clearly? As long as the overall arrangement is like this, we will make up for what is not enough. The greater the pressure, the greater the space for us to perform. To a certain extent, this game is organized for the few of us, isn't it? Okay, time was tight. Aslan reported the arrangement of the original forces. Father Lesos could only block off 2 regions. One group of believers would follow the priest personally, while the other group of core believers with stronger strength would follow the weaker. The humans who stayed in London also responded that they would be responsible for two regions. The severely injured cleric, Olivia, would not participate in the battle. She would stay at the bottom of the church to recuperate. The third corporal under her, Shield of the Church, Fito Walton, had died of serious injuries when a mother invaded the church. The first corporal was also seriously injured. In addition to the death of the liquidation troops and many saints, the Holy Knights could not provide any military strength to fight against the large-scale siege troops. The task of guarding the city was handed over to the Scarlet Knights and the Sorcerer Knights, who had been active in their mother's palace and secretly set up a barrier. Jaros Midam, who was already old, gladly accepted the battle plan. Commander Shea had just finished her self-surgery in the hospital and led the Scarlet Knights to one of the guarded areas. Some of the knights on horses didn't even have time to take off their white coats. For a moment, the lifeless city of London seemed to have come alive. Rumble, the mythical worm that had been sleeping for 4 months, once again lifted the entire iceberg and headed towards a preset garrison area. At this moment, the Polar Circle mantis demons sealed in ice opened their eyes one after another. As the layers of ice broke off, the Polar Circle forces behind Aslan slowly became restless. Ta-ta-ta. The sound of hooves could be heard continuously, but there was not a single goat running in the city. In another preset garrison area near the city wall, layers of dark purple fog had completely covered the area. Some kind of black forest that was between living things and plants began to grow rapidly in the streets, and the entire area was filled with a kind of vitality. The flock of sheep had arrived, not far away, in an area with a relatively high density of residents. It seemed that a large number of the most ordinary dark residents had been specially arranged to come here. After signing some kind of agreement, they fell asleep peacefully in their respective rooms. Their consciousness was slowly brought to a very deep area, and they lived a new life in the dreamlands. At the same time, the physical body in the sleeping state became the connecting channel between the dreamlands and reality. Plants of different styles grew out from their navels. Some were flowers, some were grass, some were thorns and vines, and some were even directly transformed into human trees that took root on the bed. Finally, the plants that grew wildly and crowded the room would peel off the bodies of women that were as delicate as water. They wore plant masks of different styles and wore translucent halter straps dresses. They were also engraved with a large number of unrecognizable tattoos. To be precise, they should be called dream tattoos. The dream witches that were farmed by the Moon Maiden, Agatha, had all come to reality. Another garrison area that was also set up in the residential area. The faucets of every household were turned on at the same time, and streams of clear water flowed out continuously. Slowly, the clear water began to be mixed with seaweed and small shellfish until the water pipes were completely broken, and various substances that belonged to the sea burst out. Slowly, the seawater that came out of nowhere filled the sinks and the rooms. Finally, it seeped out of the buildings and formed a thin layer of water in the streets and alleys. Asterisk plop plop plop. Asterisk a large number of dead fish were scattered everywhere. In the darkness, eyes that were like searchlights slowly appeared, either stuck to the windows, hidden in the sewers, or filled the entire alleyway. The deep ones had prepared a channel to the deep sea for outsiders. Chapter 1397. Currently, in the city of London, the number of garrison troops led by mythical entities was as follows: Frowny Face Human Expeditionary Force. 2. Church of Evernight. 2. Original Force. For compared to the invaders who were about to launch a general attack on London, there were 3 fewer troops. If the gap could not be filled in time, the entire defense line would completely collapse in a short period of time. And there was one more thing to pay attention to: battlefield factors. Although the black dragon in the sky was fighting fiercely with its mother, because the war broke out in the city of London, The black dragon could spew all kinds of destructive dragon breaths without restraint. In order to ensure that her city was not affected, the mother had to do her best to block every dragon breath that fell on London. While the mother was restricted, she could not ensure that the dragon breath was completely blocked. A portion of the destructive energy that escaped or was scattered would turn into small meteorites and randomly fall in different parts of London. Some of the lower-level hybrid demons might be instantly evaporated. Similarly, the cat and mouse game in the city did not stop for a moment. Grim Reaper Alex located the aura of the mechanical mother in the death plane and hunted all over the city. However, such restriction could not guarantee that there would be no gaps. Once the mechanical mother was free, it would shoot out destructive rays with a raise of its hand. If they were unlucky, it might cause a devastating blow to a troop station in the city. It was also because of this that the Grim Reaper was under great pressure. He could not relax for a moment. If he wanted to break this situation, he had to wait for a good enough opportunity. Of course, such a cat-and-mouse game was not without benefits. With Alex's many kills, although he consumed a lot of energy and stamina, he was also constantly getting closer to the root of the mechanical mother, a girl hiding at the bottom of a metal lake. In conclusion, the garrison had to withstand the double pressure of unequal numbers and war factors to defend the inner city. It's coming. Millions of invading coalition troops invaded the inner city from the 11 positions of the city wall at the same time. They were no longer like the vanguard troops who explored different areas in the form of small teams. Instead, they maintained almost perfect integrity and coordination as they forcefully pushed into the inner city. Detailed information about London had been imprinted in their heads. Along the way, they destroyed all the buildings, street lamps, and black candles that were placed everywhere. The energy beam shot out by the Terminator machine also carried a strange dark red energy, which symbolized the power of the secret treasure. The effect was better than expected. It could tear apart the darkness created by the candles and easily destroy large and small buildings. However, there was one detail that required attention. The program Terminator did not destroy any of the sewer exits. Instead, it welded the sewer exits shut. Because the Vanguard troops did not have much information about the sewers, they died as soon as they entered. The sewers were also listed as a dangerous area in the general attack this time. They were to avoid them as much as possible on the eve of the siege and only deal with the sewers when the enemy was about to be wiped out. He had been pushing forward. Half an hour later, the invading army officially stepped into the territory of the station troops, and war broke out. The iceberg, whose peak almost touched the mythical celestial body, was located at the intersection of the streets. At least 3 streets in the vicinity were affected by the iceberg. The buildings and roads were all frozen, and icicles that could easily penetrate human bodies fell like snowflakes. A world of ice and snow. The mythical worm from the northern continent combined with the characteristics of the iceberg to release a field effect. The invaders who stepped into this area, especially the machines with good thermal conductivity, would be automatically stacked with the debuff Extreme Cold. The effects were as follows: movement speed -1%, agility -1%, energy transfer -1%, and an additional stack every 10 seconds. The maximum number of stacks was 30. When the stacks were full, the individual would also receive an additional debuff, bone-chilling cold. When the individual was attacked by a polar creature, there was a 10% chance of being completely frozen. Of course, the extreme cold effect could be offset by burning energy. Because the iceberg covered a large area, it included the entire route of the invading army. If they wanted to go deeper, they had to pass through the iceberg area. The mythical body in charge of this army was the Purgatory Blacksmith from the Holy Class, Usam. His image was a strong man with burning iron pillars on his back. He looked like a demon blacksmith. His physique was beyond the normal range. His upper body was huge and his lower body was normal. This caused his body to lean slightly forward. His muscles were like red-hot iron, and there was even blood flowing in his body like molten iron. This person was especially good at using fire. The handicrafts he made all had high heat characteristics. Sure enough, it's consistent with the intelligence. The extreme cold iceberg may be a problem for other troops, but for me, it's great. Domain expansion, Inferno Forge. Ding, ding, ding. The dense sound of hammering iron sounded in the streets, accompanied by the splashing of fire cores. An ironworks covering an area of thousands of square meters was formed behind this person. Chapter 1398. It was a street filled with camouflage and over 80% vegetation coverage. Flowers and plants covered all the nearby streets. Branches full of fruits squeezed through the windows of every house. The branches intertwined in the air and even weaved a high-density plant network between the buildings. There were also pom-poms similar to dandelions floating in the air. The deeper they went, the more they felt detached from reality. When one of the troops passed through this area, the Terminators suddenly stopped operating one after another. The internal process fell into a dormant state, without receiving any orders. The mythical entity in charge of leading this troop came from the Sin realm. Unlike Agent Goodman's, who was just directly under the Mother, this mythical entity could not wake up the dormant machinery by changing the program or adding instructions. If they continued to go deeper, all the troops under his command would fall into a deep sleep. And it was not as simple as a deep sleep. Once a machine or individual fell into a deep sleep, plants would slowly grow on the surface of the body and eventually become a part of the sea of flowers and plants. In the face of such a situation, the leader of the troop, the Sin of Sloth, Winter Sloth, was not worried at all. He even showed a satisfied smile. Coming from the Sin realm, he was not directly under the management of Emperor Slayer. He came here because he was instructed by this sinful baby to help Emperor Slayer win the mission and try his best to get the maximum Black Tower reward for the Sin Realm. Even if he was not strengthened by the Mother's Code, he had reached the late stage of the mythical realm. But he was too lazy and did not participate in the Sin Realm's final Sin assessment. Figuratively, he did not want to walk because he was too lazy, so he made his legs and feet into pulley structures. His fat belly kept shaking as his body moved. There was even a feeling that his belly could split open at any time. Because he was too lazy and was not used to processing visual information, he dug out his eyes. He did not want to analyze the source and target of the sound. He pierced his left and right eardrums with a long needle. He even made his mouth into a funnel for the convenience of eating. He could pour food directly into his mouth. At the same time, he made his tongue into a straw for the convenience of quickly sucking liquid food. Only his nose was completely intact. After all, when satisfying his desire for food, he needed to taste it through his nose. At the same time, his nose was his most sensitive sense and could be used to deal with different types of battles. His sense of smell could not only smell the hidden danger in the environment, but it could also inhale the sinful threads into his nose and easily analyze the relevant information and weaknesses of the opponent. Sleep is truly the most delicious food. Vinner seemed to like this street covered in plants. Swoosh, swoosh. Sinful threads drilled out from his navel, and all the sleeping soldiers were pulled by the threads, slowly dragging them forward. The purpose of this was still unclear, and the dream witches hidden among the plants could not understand. In the meantime, the Moon Maiden, Agatha, also commanded the witches to set up a trap in the dark. Once the invaders were all in deep slumber and only this sloth was left, she would directly cast the dream's secret spell on him. The lazy Vinner continued to move forward. As more and more individuals fell into hibernation, he could only extend more sinful threads from his navel to drag the troops. It's getting heavier. I'm so tired. That's about it. Almost 90% of the 100,000 plus troops fell into hibernation. Lazy Vinner suddenly stopped. His abdomen opened up into an extremely exaggerated mouth. The sin light ball that symbolized the myth of sloth was in the deepest part of this mouth. Under the guidance of the sin light ball, the sinful threads that shot out from his navel all turned into straws, absorbing a different kind of special drink that only Vinter could absorb, the source of sloth. Deep slumber was an expression of sloth, and it could be directly absorbed by Vinter and turned into his own energy. Every mouthful sucked on more than 100,000 straws. For a moment, the sleeping machines and sinful spirits all woke up. And it was an unprecedented state of consciousness. The tiredness of marching and the tension of war were all swept away, and all the substances related to sloth in their bodies were all sucked away. Burp, at the same time, a monstrous burp came from Vinter's body, and a strong wave of air spread out in the street. It's been a long time since I absorbed such a large amount of sin of sloth, so comfortable. The feeling that Vinter brought was almost twice as strong as when he first came to the street, especially the big mouth on his abdomen. It already had a feeling of being able to prey on space. All the routes need to pass through this damp area. And it's not the usual damp. The water stains on the street are mixed with the smell of the deep sea, and it belongs to the most ancient deep sea, even older than our world. Another extremely damp street area. A mythical entity signaled his subordinates to wait outside the water stains, and he would personally check the street that was occupied by the sea. Holding the dragon-patterned staff in his right hand, a bright crystal that was emitting a strong magical aura was gently rotating at the tip of the staff. A cloak made of blue crystal dragon scales covered his whole body, and the inside faintly reflected the face of a handsome young man. His eyes were shining like sapphires. From the Draconic nation, weaving dragon, Duke Mantos. Compared to the mountain dragon that was imprisoned by Grimm in the abyss, there was a big difference. Duke did not have the strong physique of a dragon of the same level. He might not even be able to defeat a mountain dragon of the gate-opening level. But his existence was hailed as the future successor of the Draconic nation, and he himself was extremely special. Weaving dragons, the total number of Draconic nation's population was less than 1%, and they had a unique blue crystal dragon scale and a unique magical affinity. The dragon blood that flowed in their bodies was a kind of highly concentrated magical energy. The blood vessels that flowed in their bodies were innately woven into the most perfect magical circuit. Duke was one of the best, and at the same time, he was also a unique magical genius. He was unwilling to stay in the Draconic nation. So he used the connection between the world and the Black Tower to travel to various worlds, collecting and learning the magic of different worlds. He did not choose the evolutionary path of the Draconic nation, but walked on the more difficult path of fate. He was a traveler of fate like Han Dong, and had entered the mythical ranks as early as 10 years ago. Because of his deep relationship with the Black Tower, his understanding of the hybrid demons was also higher than other Draconic nations. Now, he quickly read the composition of the seawater and the deep-sea pollution that was contained in it by touching the water stains. Analysis complete. In an instant, a pair of blue dragon wings with flowing magical patterns spread out behind him. A large number of magical seeds were sprinkled from the dragon wings and fell on each of his subordinates, allowing them to be effectively immune to the corrosive damage brought by the seawater. However, his fighting spirit was not particularly high. He was more like a person who sought knowledge. Sai, I heard that the hybrid demons have been studying ancient magic since the beginning of the universe, and some of them were even born from magic. If only I could avoid war and have the opportunity to talk to the wise ones among them about the origin of magic, and try to learn the most ancient and chaotic magic, how good would that be? Chapter 1399. Almost at the same time, the city of London was dazzling and shaking. The 8 garrison points set up by the hybrid demons and the humans stationed in the city entered a state of war almost at the same time. It could be seen that the other party's integrity and coordination were high. They would never give the hybrid demons a chance to mobilize their manpower with the home advantage. At the same time, the information brought by the sacrifice of the vanguard. With the support of the information, The mythical body and the Terminator army supported by the code, the hybrid demons were slightly suppressed in the early stages of the battle. The allied forces of the four great worlds were advancing at an extremely slow speed. Fortunately, the forces behind the original body were basically at full strength. With the sound assistance and intelligence investigation provided by the mythical body, the situation could be stabilized. Even so, it was only able to defend 8 regions. At present, there were still 3 troops in an unguarded state, pushing forward in the city. The mythical body from the sin of sin was different from the sin of laziness, Vinter, that used laziness as fodder. It was also different from the Emperor Slayer that poured all sins into killing. The sins he committed were ranked relatively low on the original sin tablet, but they were relatively special. Sin of peeping, Tano, because he relied entirely on the palanquin bearers to travel, and his true body was hidden in the palanquin, his true appearance could not be seen. Behind the curtain, it felt like something was peeping at something at any time. It even felt like the palanquin was loaded with a box of eyeballs, endlessly spying on everything in the outside world. The 4 palanquin bearers dug out their eyes, and their shoulders were completely integrated with the corners of the palanquin. It was as if they were a part of the palanquin and were directly controlled by the mythical body. The speed of this troop was almost twice as slow as the other troops. This was because Tungmu moved and stopped. Once he spied on a strange area, he would stay for a while. However, this was also approved by the mother. Because his eyes could see hidden information that the vanguard troops could not obtain, he could dig deeper. After a while, he also reached a deeper location in the city of London, but he was not attacked by the enemy. Strange, the area I am currently in should be the same as the other troops. Why haven't I encountered any hybrid demons? Tungmu reported the situation to the mother through the programming network. He immediately received orders to continue deeper into the city. It seemed like there weren't enough hybrid demons left in the city, and he happened to find a gap. How boring. I wanted to take a peek at what kind of mythological scrolls these mantis demons who sealed themselves in their original world and didn't interact with the Black Tower have. However, it was also a good thing to go deeper. Maybe it can let me peek at the true appearance of this city in advance. Even though the land deed, which symbolizes the power of the world, has been worn out, it can still carry so many mythical bodies and the army in the city. There must be something interesting down there. The palanquin continued forward as it passed through a dark alley. The sedan bearers all stopped and turned the sedan door into a dark alley. What is this? In this person's special vision, in the depths of the eerie and narrow street, a strange door was hidden. He immediately compared it with the map of London sent by the mother. The back of this street just corresponded to an area that had not been explored. The overall feeling it gave him was different from the visual senses of London. Black smoke? The peeping vision even found strands of strange death aura constantly overflowing from the crack of the door, flattened the nearby buildings. With all kinds of explosions, the densely packed high-rise buildings around were all razed to the ground. A highly hidden inner wall was revealed, extending to the outer wall, forming a completely enclosed area in the city. He continued to peek. A hollow and dark door appeared on the wall. Behind the door was a manor that was completely different from the style of London. To be safe, Tung Mu also reported to the mother and requested to investigate this mysterious area. Perhaps the real core of London was here. There was a certain possibility. Otherwise, it would not deliberately build high-rise buildings with various night illusions and visual errors to deliberately hide the existence of this area. The mother also quickly approved. After all, the characteristics of Tung Mu were originally used to explore London and eliminate the risks lurking in the dark. When the curtain of the palanquin was lifted, a strange eyeball that was connected to blood vessels and wrapped in the abdominal cavity was revealed. Sin peeping, a powerful eye technique, was exerted. The enchantment was broken, and the iron gate leading to the Scarlet Manor was exposed in front of the troops. Everyone, let's go in and take a look. The Terminator troops quickly poured into the mysterious manor like a river, just as they were about to wreak havoc inside. An indescribable pressure, accompanied by a huge gray shadow, descended at the same time. The machines that stepped into the manor were crushed into discs. Even if some of them barely held on, they were overloaded. It was as if they were carrying a heavy mountain. Across the manor gate, a giant dragon's eyes covered with tentacles and turbid and crazy eyes were staring at Tung Mu in the palanquin. "Isn't this the missing mountain dragon, Samir?" I didn't expect that not only was he defeated, but he also completely degenerated and became the gatekeeper here. His strength seems to be much stronger than before. Interesting. I want to go in and take a look. After the mother learned about Tung Mu's situation, she immediately asked if he needed reinforcements. At present, there were 2 troops in the same situation as him. They had not encountered the hybrid demons and could come to support. However, Tung Mu politely refused. Let them continue to advance into the inner city. I won't clash with Samir head-on. I will quietly sneak in and peek at everything inside. Hiss. When I determine what secrets are hidden inside, it won't be too late to arrange for reinforcements. If this has nothing to do with London, it will waste too much time. The other 2 troops. During the journey into London, they also did not encounter any hybrid demons. The leaders were Cause Program, Merlot from the Matrix and Assassin Grand Mentor, Eagle Savita from the Saint. As a mythical program, Merlot was different from the agent, Goodmans, who was fighting the hybrid demons. His position in the mother's body was a set of cause and effect programs that had long been eliminated. He was once hunted down by the antivirus software Goodmans. When he was about to be deleted by the system, he raised his consciousness to the level where he could evade the system. He combined with other eliminated programs inside the mother's body to create an organization of exiles. In the end, he was recognized by the mother and retained. As for the body craftsman, his leadership style was different from all the other troops. The overall feeling was that they were moving in the shadows. The darkness of London provided them with increased mobility. His position was far higher than the Golden Saint that Han Dong and Grimm jointly killed. Similarly, it was also higher than the Purgatory Craftsman, Yao Sam, who was fighting in the Ice Mountains. At present, the 2 troops had completed the rendezvous and were planning to move deeper. There was a noise from a larger clothing store by the roadside. Chapter 1400. Cause and Effect Program. Merlot, full name. Merlot Wangakasher, the leader of the exiles from the Matrix, the core program of the early Matrix. In other words, if the original world did not go through the program iteration and upgrade, the current Matrix would be Merlot. Its image was that of a relatively short Spaniard with a big ponytail. Its appearance did not look much different from an ordinary human. What a good result, exactly as I expected. There's no need to wander around the outer layer. I can directly go to the core of this hybrid demon city. Perhaps there's chaotic energy that can upgrade the program hidden there. Just as he was about to go deeper, a machine that was leaking oil suddenly jumped down from the buildings in front of him. Merlot immediately recognized the program that controlled the broken machine and immediately ordered the entire army to stop. Buzz! The leaking machine gently raised its hand and shot out an energy beam that was enough to penetrate 5 streets. It even slightly affected the nearby garrison area that was fighting. However, not long after the energy shot out, a shadow of death enveloped it. At this moment, Merlot saw an irresistible cause and effect of death. A line of unavoidable termination command was added to the mechanical program controlled by the Matrix. Buzz! The machine's head was cut off, and the remaining part dissipated in the shadow of death. The cloaked Grim Reaper with a huge silver scythe on its back landed in the position of the Matrix robot. Its gaze suddenly turned to Merlot, who was not far away. Such a gaze scared the latter until he was sweating profusely. The program in his brain was frantically calculating, and there were even bursts of white smoke seeping out of his scalp. He barely found a cause and effect relationship that could prevent him from being killed. Don't have any facial expression. Don't look directly. take 3 steps back. After completing the above actions, Merlot raised his head again. The Grim Reaper had left the street, and the terrifying aura of death had completely dissipated. It's really scary. Fortunately, the Matrix is secretly restraining such a powerful existence. I really have to thank her when I get back. Just as Merlot was about to continue moving forward, an irresistible order was generated in his brain. Merlot, stay where you are. 3 troops will be free for this siege. They can continue to move deeper into the hybrid demon nest without any hindrance. The Vineye team has discovered a secret area that has not been explored and is spying alone. In 5 minutes, the body craftsmen from the Holy Order will meet you and advance together. Body craftsman? It seems to be an outsider who is difficult to communicate with. Matrix, can you give me control of the joint advancement? I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. However, Merlot's petition was rejected by the mother. The scale of Saint rank is much larger than our world, and the craftsmanship they possess can also bring unprecedented innovations to our technology. It was necessary to make appropriate overtures of goodwill in order to establish cooperative relations after the war. I have already asked the other party's opinion. The command of the joint advance will be handed over to the human craftsman, Eagle Savita. I hope you can provide sufficient assistance. Yes, although Merlot agreed, he was a little unhappy. As the leader of the exiles, he had a certain ambition. Although he was currently living in the programmed world created by the mother, he had a more extreme resistance mentality than any program. Although I have to admit that this woman's program development is better than mine, her management of the world is too conservative. For a special world like ours, which is controlled by programs, the potential is definitely higher than that of Saint level. There is no need for us to bow down to this group of craftsmen who follow old technology. With benefits as the premise, they will naturally provide the technology. As soon as he finished speaking, another black army emerged from the side, and some people even emerged directly from the shadows. There was no movement at all. The nature of the entire army had been changed. Under the leadership of this human craftsman and assassin, they had completely adapted and used the dark environment of London. Eagle Savita. In terms of weight, he should be the lightest of the mythical craftsmen. He used unique body craftsmanship to remove all the excess parts of his body. At the same time, the structure of the skin, the arrangement of the flesh, and the blood vessels have been optimized to the extreme. The mythical painting corresponded to an extremely detailed drawing of the human body. The image was barely classified as a human figure. Below the thoracic cavity and above the waist were completely removed, leaving only an integrated spine for connection. After the organs of the body were optimized, they were integrated into the thoracic area. The face and jaw were replaced with an unknown black metal. The arms and legs were also made of this highly flesh-like black metal, which was a combination of Savita's highest craftsmanship and his mythology. Domain, low consumption. Assassin curtain. Savita could expand the mythical domain in the form of a curtain with very low consumption. It did not have any attribute enhancement, but it could allow all the allies covered by the curtain to move forward in the shadows. It could even use the shadows as a medium to travel short distances. When the troops converged, Merlot's displeased expression immediately turned into a smile, and he naturally handed over his command. Savita did not say much. After all, their purpose was exactly the same. They had no intention of stopping and continued to advance deeper. The assassin curtain also expanded, enveloping the two teams. It was the first time that the cause program, Merlot, was shrouded in the shadows. He did not expect that even his body could use the shadows to achieve short-distance movement. It's really a good ability. This way, we can reach the depths faster. It's not bad. Merlot took out a cream cake from his pocket and ate it gracefully. He followed the army with a completely relaxed posture. When the joint forces went all the way down Oxford Street, they could clearly see the Big Ben standing not far away. At this moment, On the opposite side of the crossroads, a private custom-made clothing store with a Gentleman of London sign was lit with lights that were completely incompatible with the dark London. There were even figures reflected by the lights, flashing quickly. When Savita tried to expand the assassin curtain, it could not cover it. Several people in the army who were capable of reconnaissance tried different methods to observe the clothing store, but they all returned without success. Mr. Merlot, can you detect the situation inside? Merlot crossed his fingers in front of him. I'm different from other programs. My perception is not very good. However, I can open a one-way door to the clothing store and send some machines in to collect information. After saying that, Merlot created a key in his right hand and inserted it into a door on the side of the road. Because he opened a door, there must be an area behind this door. Merlot could modify the relationship between cause and effect and change the result. The door in front of him led directly to a dressing room in the clothing store. However, a team of Terminator machines secretly sneaked in. Before they could upload data, the program connection was instantly cut off. Ring. At the same time, the doorbell of the clothing store rang and the front door was pushed open. 10 thugs with different styles and exuding different energy who had just changed into brand new suits slowly walked onto the street. The leader was a young man in a black and white suit with abyss-like pupils. 5 mechanical heads that were dripping oil were pierced through the corresponding black nails of his index finger. The young man did not immediately look at the enemy who occupied the street. Even the windows and rooftops of all the nearby buildings had their eyes on him. Instead, he slightly leaned toward a friend behind him. Pope, how is it? The suits in this shop are very good, right? Chapter 1401. There were exactly 10 people walking out of the clothing store. When Glenn first went to arrange his tactics, he accidentally discovered that the store Han Dong had customized a suit for him happened to be in an empty space. On a whim, he forcibly led everyone here, even going so far as to find the boss hiding in the depths of the cellar and tailor a suit for each of them. Without the use of any secret technique, it was just an ordinary suit that continued human culture, without the supportive ability effects. Glenn was just paranoid about this matter, so he forced everyone to come here and try it out. I wasn't too used to human clothing before, but I didn't expect that after trying it out, it would feel so great. After Nicholas brought me to this store to customize my clothes, this kind of human clothing that focuses on clothes-fitting comfort really does have a bit of a feeling. The feeling of the body's holes being ventilated can be concealed very well, and the finely woven fabric wandering between the skin can produce a kind of unexpected comfort, allowing the feeling of impact to be more directly transmitted to the whole body. Hand-to-hand combat can be called exciting. How about it? Not bad, right? Glenn continued the style that Han Dong had customized for him, and the exaggerated black and white design fit him perfectly. Bop was wearing a dark blue checkered suit, paired with a star-studded black tie. The overall design fit Pope's galaxy head. Pope didn't answer the question of comfort. His eyes were focused on the enemy troops covering the streets and buildings in front of him, as well as the 2 mythical bodies emitting powerful auras. The galaxy brain was spinning at high speed to formulate a plan. No matter how it was formulated, in the face of such a high-pressure situation, the battle plan was tightly linked to Glenn. Joining hands with Glenn was the one thing he was most unwilling to do. But the grim situation before his eyes could only make Pope temporarily throw the matter of the past to the back of his mind. This was the only time they would cooperate. At this time, a voice from the depths of the galaxy reverberated in the minds of all the origin substances, and Pope began to arrange his tactics. We will restrict the enemy's combined forces through a single-point breakthrough and a holistic restriction. Glenn, I, Aslan, Eugenus, and Vader will carry out a single-point breakthrough. We will mainly launch a strong attack against the enemy's 2 mythical bodies, with Glenn and Eugenus, who possess legendary weapons, as the core of the battle. Sally, Helen, Hope, Hyde, and Kit were responsible for the overall restriction. The entire process required Kit to be the core, using all of its characteristics to restrict the 100,000-strong army and reduce their numbers as much as possible. In addition, please remember that the purpose of our arrival this time is to restrict and not kill. What we need to do is to stabilize the situation in front of us and delay until the arrival of the next phase. The nature of the game was the same. I will try my best to adjust the tempo of the battle so that everyone can have some time to breathe. Glenn merely put his hands behind his head and whistled to himself. It was unknown whether or not he was seriously listening to Pope's battle request, or perhaps he had only heard the first half of the sentence. Then, Glenn turned his gaze to the last young man who walked out of the clothing store. His originally messy green hair was tied into a trendy ponytail, paired with a dark green suit, a skull-pattern tie, and a light yellow shirt, although it was very close to him. However, this kind of tidiness made the young man very uncomfortable. His whole body felt very awkward. "Eugene, can you keep up with me? If you can't keep up, just use your eyes like before. Your eyeballs are really too useful. I've tried all kinds of methods, but I still can't copy them. I can keep up." Eugene's eyes were more determined. He had to win enough outstanding performance in this game. "That's good. If I feel that you can't keep up halfway, don't blame me for gouging your eyes out on the spot." Eugene's eyes were focused on the black mass of the army on the street. His mouth exhaled a green breath. A kind of plague had already completely spread when he appeared. While Glenn and Eugene were talking, Pope was also alone with Black Goat Sally to arrange the mission. Sally was dressed in standard office lady attire, a white shirt as the base, paired with a black suit and short skirt that wouldn't affect her movements. She still kept the black hooves. "Miss Sally, I'll leave the overall restriction to you. As I just said, the restriction will revolve around Kid. Only in this way can it be possible to restrict the army of 100,000. If I have time, I'll divide a part of my attention to assist in the regulation." Sally crossed her hands in front of her chest and softly responded, "You'd better concentrate on the mythical body. These two in front of you are mythical close to the king." "Then I'll leave it to you." Perhaps it was because the sudden appearance of the thugs in suits on the street didn't fit the theme of war. The enemy troops felt strange and didn't launch an attack for the time being. The assassin Great Mentor determined the level of the 10 youths at first glance. None of them had reached the mythical level. When the assassin curtain spread out to the maximum extent, it couldn't detect any reinforcements lying in ambush. Because of the lack of manpower, they deliberately sent a suicide squad to stall for time. Kill them all. Time was tight. Eagle Savita didn't hesitate at all and wave his hand. The assassin curtain immediately covered the youth at the entrance of the clothing store. At the same time the curtain covered, a dozen Terminators with eyes emitting a mechanical red light instantly rose up. Their palms were full of energy. Boom! A mushroom cloud entwined with crimson electric light rose in front of the clothing store. However, there was one thing that made Savita very strange. He saw 10 youths with the naked eye, but the assassin curtain only captured 9, just as he was trying to find the missing one. One of the subordinates closest to Savita, who also belonged to the beginning stage of the Holy Order, suddenly held his head with both hands and at the same time began to howl in pain. It seemed that something had drilled into his brain. Because it was too uncomfortable, this person completely pierced his eardrum with his fingers and even put his whole arm into his ear hole and crazily scratched. In the next second, the arm that reached into his ear hole was completely torn apart. A youth bathed in blood slowly crawled out from the blacksmith's ear hole. The black and white suit was wrapped in a layer of mucus, which was not stained by blood. In the youth's hand was a black knife with a woman's arm as the handle. The surface was full of fingernail patterns. "Blacksmith, am I right? I remember the inferior breath on your body very clearly, but you seem to be more powerful than that shiny guy." His tongue hung in the corner of his mouth. The crazy grim completely ignored the difference in level and directly slashed at the enemy's commander-in-chief. Perhaps it was because of the enlightenment that came from swallowing the Lord Insect, or the remnants of the insect's limbs that remained in his stomach. Perhaps it was the improvement that came from the battle with the Emperor's Slayer. Grimm's current slash had completely reached the mythical level. It was like a crazy demon opening the abyss full of fingernails to devour him. Eagle Savita smelled the danger. He immediately crossed his two black arms that were made with perfect craftsmanship in the shape of an X in front of him. This black material between flesh and metal immediately formed the arm blade. Ding! In an instant, the surrounding ground cracked layer by layer. Every inch of the ground was left with pitch-black fingernail scratches. Savita's body sank more than 10 centimeters into the ground. "You are the hybrid demon that killed Golden Fae?" Savita just asked. A void crack quietly appeared behind him. Countless green eyeballs in the void were watching his body, analyzing his weakness, the blind spots on his back, and the best point of attack. Buzz! A cold light came first. Eugena's spear was like a mythical level Shuga's tentacle, showing the most destructive state, turning into a terrifying green flash. Whoosh! It pierced through Savita's back. Chapter 1402. The body craftsman, Savita, was the overall commander of this joint force. The moment Glenn appeared and attacked this person, he directly attracted close to 100% of the attention. The nearby groups, especially the craftsmen directly under Savita, were even more furious and rushed over in groups. At this moment, thousands of dynamic vision had completed locking on to Glenn. Such attention made Glenn feel as if he was on a stage. This was the scene he wanted to become the focus of attention in the London game room. Wow, the linkage is very strong. Come and kill me. At this moment, Glenn neither defended nor dodged, but took the initiative to open his arms to welcome the upcoming various long-range attacks. However, Glenn was not satisfied yet. Rumble. Several large cracks appeared in the street, and several thick plant roots rose from the ground. At the location where the explosion had just occurred at the entrance of the clothing store, there grew a huge flower from another world that was tens of meters high. This was the plant mount that Helen Hilbert rode when she first came to the city of London. The flower buds bloomed, carrying hundreds of millions of pollen. Helen took the initiative to show the most perfect appearance in front of the enemy. She was wearing a pure white slim-fit suit with a shirt of the same color inside. Her hands were slowly unbuttoning, capturing the enemy's eyes to the greatest extent. The countless skulls that made up her body were playing the greatest role, reflecting an irresistible, perfect image in the hearts of the enemy. Even the program that controlled the machine was equally effective. For a moment, the attacks that should have been applied to Glenn were all interrupted, and the eyes of the joint forces were all turned to Helen. Affected by the collective charm, there were even individuals who tried to climb up the flower to have intimate contact with Helen. However, this large-scale effect could not be maintained for too long. The next second, when Helen finished attracting the attention of the enemy, boom! The violent trampling of sheep's hooves came from the adjacent street, and at the same time, there were sheep's hooves of varying width from several meters to tens of meters, directly imprinted on the street, and the overall terrain sank because of this. Sally walked slowly from the end of the street with a standard model step. Every step she took would form a powerful crush in the random area in front of her. At the same time, her mouth was also muttering about the curse of the Black Forest. Asterisk drip, 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 asterisk filthy, viscous liquid continuously flowed out from between his teeth and lips. When this liquid dripped onto the ground, it was as if the earth itself was cursed. Any individual that tried to attack Sally would be directly affected by the curse when they came within a certain range. Whether it was the physical body or the machinery, they would be covered in pustules due to the curse, absorbing a large amount of the individual's energy. The pustules would develop into gestation bodies in a short period of time, breeding a young hybrid demon with the genetic elements of the individual. When the palace body was damaged or matured, the larva would erupt with its most terrifying side and devour the main body. Wherever Sally went, she would often see a large number of larvae eating the enemy. At the same time, Sally launched her AoE attack. Hominoid Hopu had also arrived at the outermost periphery through void projection. Hope was given a white suit with a black shirt underneath. Due to Hopper's uniqueness, his suit was made of the best materials from the clothing store. Every fiber was fused with extremely tough dark energy to support Hopper's limitless body. Hope's figure was out of the ordinary and could only be found in the 2D world. The white suit was filled to the brim, and the contours of every muscle could be clearly reflected on the surface of the suit. When all kinds of attacks came at him, even some super energy rays that were fused with the remnants of the secret treasure couldn't break through his defense. At most, they could only leave a scorch mark on the surface of Hopper's body. At the same time, Hopper's attack was also the simplest and most direct. He punched directly. The purest brute force actually tore the space around his fist completely. The mechanical body closest to his fist was instantly vaporized before it could even see the process of destruction. The fist was facing the direction, forming a conical pit that was more than 200 meters long. This kind of power was already comparable to a mythical creature and couldn't be measured by common sense. The 8th Prime, Supreme, Glorious One, Hyde Darius, who was also classified as an overall restriction, arrived at the outermost street through void projection just like the previous two. He had a rather strange personality, and the only person he could get along with was Popper. It was because Popper was willing to eat the dishes he cooked for such a simple reason. Hyde was willing to give up the treatment that was comparable to the highest royalty in the deep sea and follow Popper at any time to explore every corner of the universe, except for void projection. It was also because of this that he was happiest every day to cook and then let Popper eat it. Asterisk drip, 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 asterisk seawater flowed along his slightly curly hair and fell on the surface of a dark blue suit with a checkered pattern. Underneath was a light blue shirt and a black tie with a seagrass pattern on it. Hyde's physique was second only to Hopper's. Although he had the number 1 body in the deep sea gate of opening, his true strength wasn't in his physical body, but in the secret of the deep sea. He had another name in the sea, the Blessed One. This name was innate. Before they were born, when they were still in the egg, they had intimate contact with the Great One because of their dreams. When Hyde was born, he had a pair of flabby and atrophied bat wings on his back, which was a sign of the Blessed One. This meant that he was born with a talent that the regular deep ones didn't have, and Hyde was the most talented of the blessed ones of the deep sea in the last 100 years. When Hyde appeared at the end of the street, the air around him became humid. A Terminator who was also at the gate of opening was less than 3 meters in front of him. Sensing the aura of the hybrid demon, the Terminator raised his metal arm and aimed it at Hyde's body. Hyde didn't dodge, but did the same thing. He raised his thick arm and spread open his web palm. In the middle of his palm was a ball of water. Whether it was the size, the visual sense, or the energy that leaked out, it was obvious that the machine had the advantage. The thing in Hyde's palm was like a harmless ball of water. Boom! Energy erupted. A beam of energy enough to cover the upper body of the Terminator shot out. However, what shot out from Hyde's palm was only a line of water as thick as a finger. When the two different types of attacks collided, the energy beam was instantly destroyed. It spread out in a ring and quickly dissipated. There was no resistance to speak of. The water beam pierced through the mechanical brain, and with a flood effect, it drowned out the main body of the program stored inside. The water beam didn't encounter much resistance as it pierced through the machine. Along with the dozens of mechanical individuals on this line, it shot through a total of 5 buildings before finally turning into a pool of clear water that splashed onto the wall. Chapter 14:03 Overall Restriction. Bob wanted to achieve his goal. He needed to use the origin substance, which was more prominent in area attacks, to restrict the enemy's large forces. While stopping them from continuing to recommend, he also needed to reduce the enemy's numbers as much as possible. Therefore, at the time of the explosion at the entrance of the clothing store, Bop had already established several teleportation portals leading to the enemy's periphery. Sally and the others cut in from the periphery, each releasing a big move to seal the enemy. At first, it was very effective, but as time passed, the effect of the area attack was weakening. The Terminator machines that were destroyed by physical attacks, curses, and secret techniques would upload the data in their bodies the moment before they died. The CPU of the mother body, which was in charge of the battlefield, would add upgrade patches to the program of the theater according to the uploaded data. Adaptation was faster than Bop expected. At the same time, the enemy troops also gathered in a short time. The elite individuals at the late stage of gate opening attacked and defended against Sally and the others with them as the core. There were already individuals who could withstand the crushing of the sheep's hooves, the power of the fists, and the secret techniques of the deep sea. Helen's charm was also gradually losing its effectiveness, and energy beams began to bombard the huge flower under her. As the commander of the external operations, Sally stared at the street that was almost flattened by her. Many machines joined forces to support a protective field, effectively blocking the crushing of the foot just now. The overall strength is so strong. Almost in an instant, the enemy troops on the street and even in the nearby area all became able to adapt to my crushing, and they also developed a certain resistance to the curse of the Black Forest. There should be some kind of neural network covering the city of London, collecting war information at all times, synchronizing the analysis results with all the individuals, and even helping them to analyze the countermeasures in advance. The pressure is greater than expected, but if it's this thing, can your technology find a way to deal with it? His existence will give even us a headache. Sally was optimistic about the timing. She transmitted her voice to Bop, who was controlling the void domain. A different void portal opened in the sky. No monsters drilled out of it, nor did they shoot out some kind of powerful cosmic ray. Instead, a humanoid individual fell out. The corresponding location happened to be an area with a higher density of enemy troops, still some distance away from the two mythical entities. Taking a closer look, the person who fell was a young man wearing a ghoul skin with sewing marks all over his skin and a dejected face. It was paired with a casual, gray hooded suit. The ninth origin essence, Evil Demon Root, Kit Lanier. Bop had positioned it as the key to restricting the enemy in this battle. However, he did not seem to be in a good condition. While falling, it did not display any abilities, nor did it show any signs of slowing down. He didn't even adjust his falling posture and deliberately let his face fall. The acceleration of the void, coupled with the fall from a high altitude, left a clear depression in the ground. His neck was completely broken. After a short while, Kit slowly sat up and reached out to move his broken neck back to its normal position. Patting the dust off his suit, he said with a dejected expression, "This isn't much different from jumping off a building." Sigh, just as Kit was complaining about his failed suicide attempt. Countless killing intents had already locked onto him, and all sorts of long-range attacks were launched at him. It was different from the defensive methods of other origin bodies. The shell that Kit used to maintain his human form was the ghoul skin that Han Dong had given him, which didn't have much defensive effect. He didn't use any defensive measures either. As the boundless energy penetrated his body, mushroom clouds rose one after another. The annihilating energy stirred in the center of the explosion. Kit, who had not yet fully stood up, was directly shot into a sieve. In the eyes of the enemy, there might not even be any residue left. When the various forms of bombardment ended, a very helpless voice came from the dust. "Although it hurts a bit, it's still not enough." Sigh. Green clearly said that the probability of death during the war is very high. Why is it always like this? And you also took away the ghoul skin that Nicholas had given me. He had specially prepared it for me. It's really annoying. It's clearly the only thing that can make me happy. I have to kill you all. Maybe that will make me feel a bit better, but it also seems to be very troublesome. The sound of talking to himself kept coming out. An extremely filthy aura gradually appeared in the air. Even the nearby individuals, regardless of whether they were machines or organic life forms, would unconsciously check their whole bodies, always feeling something wrong with them. It wasn't just on the outside. Even their thoughts had become tainted. They always felt that their organs and cavities were full of foul-smelling and rotting substances, or that their metal pipes were stained with stinking tar and organic waste. Their thoughts and actions were affected. It was a kind of pollution that they had never experienced before. This kind of pollution was more fatal and irresistible than the polluted intelligence they had received before the war. The enemy troops, who felt something wrong with their whole bodies, continued to frantically bombard their original targets. They even took out some of their trump cards, Void End, to increase the damage. Gurgle, gurgle. During the bombardment, the sound of a kind of liquid bubbling could be heard. In the area that was being bombarded, it was like a mine had erupted. A large amount of filthy gray fluid gushed out. It looked like a fluid, but it also seemed like a kind of whole living thing. It began to quickly spread through the streets. The fluid was mixed with all kinds of distorted organs, disordered growth of limbs, and rotting tentacles that had no pattern or characteristic to speak of. It kept trembling. It kept expanding. It kept gathering and splitting. The gushing volume showed no signs of decreasing. After overflowing the streets, it continued to flow to the neighboring streets. When the fluid overflowed the building, it grew a large amount of organs, flesh, eyeballs, and tongues. The surface of these tissues would further grow tumors. Once foreign objects touched them, they would burst out a large amount of thick juice, until the entire building was completely occupied. The enemy troops mixed and were quickly being eroded and occupied, until they disintegrated, festered, or completely degenerated. Countless error codes were produced in the bodies of the dead machines and were continuously transmitted to the mother body. It even caused a portion of the CPU cores to directly overclock, greatly reducing the computing speed. The database couldn't find countermeasures. This kind of thing didn't seem to exist in the world. It was rumored. When the universe was born, in order to ensure its stability, the rules of the world, or the original creator, gathered and condensed the abnormal erroneous matter that caused the universe to collapse into an extremely dense erroneous protoplasm, sealed in a corner of the universe. The corner seemed to be deep in the earth. Kit was the original descendant of this matter. Chapter 1404. The mother took out 70% of the CPU resources to restrict death and try to create enough chaos and destruction in London. The remaining CPU was used to integrate battlefield information and overall deployment. Everything was operating normally, and even if there were fluctuations in data, they were in a stable range. All of a sudden, the CPU core in charge of a certain area in London suddenly received a large number of error codes and was instantly overclocked and stuck. The mother immediately transferred other cores to perform parallel operations, but it was still difficult to process the roundabout data in a short period of time. What kind of creature is this? The mother quickly made a decision to block the area where the error codes were uploaded. The associated program network was closed and set up as an isolated area. The extra CPU cores were used for regulation in other areas. Because her body had been locked by death, trying to go to the area of the incident would also lead death over, leading to an extremely bad result. She had to temporarily give up the management of the area. With the cause program, Merovinga Kasher, and the body craftsman, Eagle Savita, they should be able to handle the emergency even without the assistance of the program network. According to the information that was previously uploaded, a group of very special young mantis demons blocked in front of them. Their level is between gate opening and mythical. As long as Merovinga takes it seriously, it shouldn't be a problem. The mother's decision meant that the area no longer provided real-time networking and online upgrade features. Everything was left to the two mythical bodies to deal with. Deep in the void, an eye similar to the door structure was observing everything that was happening on the battlefield, staring at the fluid that was constantly spreading like a virus and corroding, distorting, and messing up all the normal and orderly substances. Bop, who was in the void, had an unsightly expression. Kit, this guy, seems to be extremely negative and world-weary, which is not conducive to development and growth. But with his attributes, it can make the error even more chaotic. It's even more conducive to the deep expansion of the error disease. No wonder the evil ancestor valued him so much. Compared to the situation in the original game, the level of pollution in London is one level higher. It's quite troublesome to clean it up afterwards, and a little carelessness could even erode the core of London. In addition to the pressure from the war and the follow-up battle plans, London may not be able to withstand it. I hope the information given by Nicholas is true and credible. When the next stage comes, I must go to the so-called Herbal and Company to check it out. When Kit revealed his true form, Sally and the others took out the crystals that they had prepared in advance and formed a close-fitting barrier around their bodies using a mystic technique. These crystals were personally made by Pop and were specially used to isolate the corruption from Kit. This was something that was necessary when fighting with Kit, and it was also something that the hybrid demons have been researching for a long time. Perhaps Kit and the corresponding existence behind him were a mistake, but since they existed, they certainly had a meaning. If the error that could threaten the hybrid demon world could be used properly, it would be a powerful force. Kit, this fellow, is really capable. Black Goat Sally stood among the buildings with sticky organs. She stared at the distorted and disorderly scene on the street, and her eyelids kept twitching. Now it's up to Green and the rest. If it drags on for too long, this guy Kit really won't be easy to retrieve. Time retreated slightly to the beginning of the battle. They were designated as the single-point breakthrough side. Grim joined forces with Eugene to deal a fatal blow to Savita. Due to his direct action, Grim immediately attracted the attention of over 10,000 soldiers. However, Grim didn't even have time to dance before he was seized by Miss Helen's external release. Apart from mythical bodies who weren't affected, everyone below mythical level was attracted by Helen. Seeing the stage taken away, Grim was very unhappy. Helen, this fellow, if it weren't for that thing in your body being too troublesome, I would have gone to the House of Witches to teach you a lesson after the game. Forget it. After all, there's still 2 mythical bodies to deal with. Eugene's shot just now was pretty good. Compared to the last game in London, this fellow has improved a lot. Grim had just thought of this. A roar of warning suddenly came. Grim, hurry and dodge. Immediately after, a strange shadow film shrouded them. Savita, the human craftsman, had already completely retracted the assassin curtain used for troop movements, and once again unfolded a very threatening domain. Domain unfolding. Prison dismemberment, mythical, with the tip of his foot on the ground, a film-like domain spread out in all directions. Eugene, with his eyes, sensed that something was wrong in advance and quickly retreated. Grim, who was still thinking about the stage being taken away, was completely caught in it. Instantly, his 5 senses were deprived, and even his movements became extraordinarily slow. A second later, the domain was withdrawn. Grim's body was all cut into thin slices no more than 1 centimeter thick. The wounds were also accompanied by an irreparable black substance, metal in small particle groups, that could damage the origin. This scene made Eugene, who was retreating, sweat profusely. If he had been shrouded in it just now, he was afraid that his life would have been in danger. A mythical body close to the king-level barrier? The pressure is even greater than that of a dominator. Just as Eugene thought of this, there was a foreign substance in his throat. Immediately after, whoosh, a pair of arms full of black nails completely opened Eugene's mouth from the inside out. Grim, who was covered in stinky mucus and even had a lot of eyeballs stuck to it, slowly crawled out and shook off the sticky substance with a look of disgust. Eugene, you're still as stinky and disgusting as ever. But thank a lot for just now. Thanks to Eugene's timely reminder, Grim was able to radiate the insanity domain onto Eugene's body and used it as an abyss beacon. The new Grim curiously stared at the target not far away. This guy is more interesting than I expected, but there's one thing I don't understand. The shot you just shot seemed pretty good to me, and the damage that the equipment should have done was all dealt. It's just a mythical body, so why isn't it affected? No matter what, it should have cried out in pain, right? Is it related to the attributes of your equipment? Is this stick used for healing? No. My eyes saw the situation just now very clearly. It's not a problem with me or the weapon, and it's not that this guy is powerful enough to ignore the stone spear piercing. It's just that someone is interfering. Eugene pointed in a direction and looked over to find a machine that had fallen in the oil room. The pierced body was just the right size for the stone spear. Someone transferred the damage of my shot. To be precise, it should be the whole piercing process to the little soldier on the side. There's such an ability? Grimm immediately turned his head to another mythical body. Cause process, Maravinga Kasher. Looks like this battle will be very interesting. Continue to enjoy it. Chapter 1405. Eugene, release the Meat Mountain and the group of disgusting Shugas. You saw the situation just now. These two mythical beings are more powerful than normal. Moreover, you have to face such a large number of troops. No matter how your partners restrain them, there will always be a small number of them who will be free to create chaos. If you make a mistake, you will be shrouded by the black membrane just now and be cut into pieces and die. A powerful male voice sounded in Eugene's head. The voice did not come from other sources. It was in Eugene's hand. It looked simple and completely made of stone. Eugene could communicate with the stone spear in the past year. To be exact, it should be after Eugene's possession plan in the South Pole failed. After experiencing a huge failure for the first time, Eugene's temperament changed greatly. He no longer cared about his life. Taking a great risk of death, he went to the Destiny realm, putting on the human shell newly developed by the ancients, and with the intervention of the entire Meat Mountain, he successfully entered the Destiny realm. Something unexpected happened. The stone spear that Eugene carried resonated when he entered the Destiny realm. This weapon of destiny that came from the invaders and wiped out the Council of the Ancients led Eugenus to a magnificent world of destiny, the Epic of Homer. It was a very restrictive destiny realm. All outsiders were bound by the rules of the world and were limited to the level of ordinary people. It was the same for Eugene. His plague and Shuga's characteristics were all sealed. He could not even achieve the most basic mutated demon. He could only maintain the form of a human. Only the ability of the eye was partially preserved. After 10 years of hellish war, Eugene finally fell at the last moment. When he woke up, he was already in the pure white settlement area. Because of the mutated demon system, Eugene could not distribute talent points, but he still received a generous reward. The most important thing was, the stone spear floating in the air had recognized Eugene as its new master. The two established a consciousness connection for the first time. This was something that even the ruler Shugas could not do. At the same time, Eugene was also told that what he participated in was actually a consciousness event. It was an epic event projected by the stone spear's characteristics. It was a special destiny experience. Although the war lasted 10 years, only 1 year had passed in reality. Otherwise, he would have missed the important London game. You reek of stench and have an extremely evil nature. I didn't expect you to be the new user. Seeing that your performance in the Trojan War was better than the previous ones, I will reluctantly allow you to try me out for a period of time. However, if you want to truly control me, you still have a long way to go. Spear of Achilles, orange font. Introduction: a legendary spear weapon. Wielded by the greatest Greek god of war, it is invincible regardless of distance or distance. Basic attributes: Sad Face 1, increase of attack distance. Throwing can increase the attack distance to the maximum. 2. Increase the probability of piercing and damage, and have the effect of breaking magic. Ignore defense is related to the target's level, and breaking magic can be used on any magic defense. General special effects: Frowny Face, Throwing Mastery. Maximum throwing distance, plus 100%. Allows charging throw, damage increased by 10% for every 0. 5s of charging. Maximum value is 100%. Recall, after throwing the spear can be returned to its original path. During the return, the spear will deal damage equal to the thrown damage. Charge and break the enemy lines. During close combat, attack speed and damage will be increased according to the duration of the battle and the damage received. Maximum 200%. Exclusive special effect. The equipment is currently sealed in stone, unable to unlock the special effect. The spear had self-consciousness. To be exact, it should be the one left in the weapon by the original user, Achilles, when he died. Currently, the consciousness in the stone spear, according to the current battle situation, suggested that Eugenus bring out his trump card, the Mountain of Flesh, and release the ultimate monster, Shogs, that couldn't be defined by the strength of the conventional hybrid demons. Doing so might be able to alleviate the current situation to a great extent, but for the overall battle plan, it didn't have much significance. At this moment, streams of fluid that symbolized error quickly rushed over from the neighboring streets. The evil stench emitted by the fluid made even Eugenus very uncomfortable. He immediately opened the crystal in his chest to isolate the corrosive damage from the error fluid. However, it was the rush of this fluid that made Eugenus firm his determination. With Kit interfering in the battle, the individuals below the mythical level in the current area will be severely restricted. The Mountain of Flesh can't be brought out now. It has to wait until the critical moment. Just as Eugenus' heart was slightly relaxed due to the spread of the error fluid, a shadow took advantage of this gap, even avoiding Eugenus' size, and instantly approached. The body craftsman, Savita, was already standing behind Eugenus. He had already noticed that this green-haired hybrid demon had a pair of unique eyes that saw through the domain he was about to release just now. In the order of priority to kill, Eugenus was ranked first. Die. The black arm turned into a deadly bayonet and was about to pierce through the target's body. An arm made of starlight appeared out of thin air and grabbed Eugenus into the void crack in advance, barely avoiding it. The galaxy's head stuck in front of Eugenus' face and said in an extremely stern tone, "What are you doing? You're distracted at this time." The opponent is a high-level existence in the mythical category and also belongs to the type that is very good at killing enemies. If I didn't make a move just now, you would have died. Listening to Pope's stern words, Eugenus wasn't upset at all. Instead, he lowered his head and made a thoughtful expression. "Bob, I have a request. I want to..." Eugenus made an unbelievable request. Even Bob found it hard to understand. "You're serious? Well, you should know the situation better than I do. The most troublesome thing isn't the shadow mythical that cut Grimm into pieces. Instead, it's another mythical that can be changed at the level of cause and effect. If we can't restrain this guy, all our attacks will be ineffective and worse things may happen. Besides, the Roshan is still hidden in my body. If I can't hold on, I'll take it out to buy time." Hearing this, the galaxy in Pope's head also spun at a high speed. Putting aside your personal risk, this plan is indeed good. "Eugenus, are you ready? Come on." Pope faced his palms and crossed his fingers. The ancient books hanging around his body began to flip. Void descent, using personal power to bring the void into the streets of London. A strange ball of light diffused in the colors of starlight spread out in the streets, forming a hemispherical space with a radius of 50 meters. There was only one target, the great master assassin, Eagle Savita. The completely sealed void area had been formed, completely isolated from the outside world. Although there was only a thin layer of film, it was like the distance between the deepest part of the sea and the surface. At the same time, the fifth prime substance, the revered Eugenus Trevolo, was included in the void. This was the battle plan proposed by Eugenus. He alone would restrain Savita, and the other four would work together to deal with Merovinga Kasher, who controlled cause and effect. This way, Eugenus might die, but he might also be recognized by the superior. Chapter 1406. Void Descent. This move consumed a lot of energy, causing Pope to fall into a state of void confinement. For a period of time, he would be unable to use mid-level and above void secret techniques. But the effect of this move was needless to say. After the hemispherical void isolated the body craftsman, it directly cut him off from all related parties. The cause programmer Low could not sense the existence of his teammates at all. The space disturbance coefficient is close to infinite. There is actually someone in the hybrid demon group who can control this kind of high-dimensional space. The Mother's current technology can only reach the fifth dimension at most. It seems that the ancient secret techniques in S01 are indeed very valuable. This scene was beyond Merlot's expectations and completely disrupted his plan. Merlot had originally intended to use peripheral assistance to intervene in the entire battle through cause and effect, allowing the highly lethal body craftsman to kill the hybrid demons blocking the way one by one. I didn't intend to make a move, but I didn't expect the problem to become so troublesome. However, such an area shouldn't be maintained for a long time. Before Savita escapes, I'll kill as many hybrid demons as possible. It's really boring. I'm clearly not the commander. Merlot's fighting will was relatively negative because he couldn't obtain command. There was no other way. The short, Spanish-looking man stretched out his hand to pull at his tie, ready to do it himself. On the other side, Grim, who was about to continue fighting, was suddenly blocked outside by the void territory. He looked unhappy. "Hey, Pope, what are you doing? You only let Eugenius have fun, but not me. That's not interesting enough. And that guy Eugenius is biased towards observation and sneak attacks. Won't he die in such a closed-off, frontal battle without any obstacles?" A response immediately came from the void. "This is Eugenius' own decision, whether he dies or not. It gives us an excellent opportunity for a 4v1. Next, we need to imprison, seriously injure, or kill another mythical body in a short period of time. Try to let Eugenius survive. Also, Kit State is more unstable than I expected. If we can't end the battle early, the corruption pollution will penetrate into the core of London. Things will be very troublesome. In addition, I need to recover for a while. During this time, I can't use void transfer. I need you, Grim, to set the attack rhythm and let Aslan and Vader play to their maximum effect." Okay. Grim spread out his hands and had to turn his gaze to the Spaniard, who looked obviously weak. Crunch, crunch, Grim dragged Miss Black's sword Lyle and walked toward Merovinga. When the blade slid across the ground, it produced an extremely ear-piercing scratching sound. At the same time, it left a series of fingernail scratches that emitted black gas. His left hand was spread open in the air, and the hole in his palm was constantly enlarging. Domain release. True abyss demonic domain. A colorless and formless abyssal domain quickly spread in all directions. All the surrounding holes were under Grimm's direct control and could be used as the entrance and exit of the abyssal domain. It was very strange. His domain had clearly covered Merlo Wynka, but Grimm could not receive any notifications, nor could he create an abyss opening on this person's body. It is indeed very special. Since there is no natural hole, let me make one for you. Ha! Grim, who was walking on the road, suddenly disappeared. The next second, the mechanical life form closest to Merlwyn was suddenly paralyzed. Its eyes widened and Grim, who was covered in engine oil, crawled out from it. The speed was unbelievably fast. It seemed that a part of Guta's power was still in Grim's body. A black shadow slashed down. The blade landed on Melowenka's right shoulder. It was as if countless fingernails had sunk into his flesh, attempting to tear off his entire right arm. Whoosh! The right arm was thrown into the air. Grim's eyes widened. He could not understand what was happening in front of him. Miss Lyle, who was in his hand, had clearly successfully slashed into the target's right shoulder and had even sunk into it. However, it was Grim's own right arm that was thrown into the air. The wound was filled with wriggling black fingernails. Without waiting for Grim to react, Merlo Wynka immediately gave a flying side kick, hitting Grim's abdomen. Boom! The sound wave that broke through the air reverberated through the streets. Grim, whose arm had been cut off, flew backward like a bullet. After breaking through 3 buildings, he crashed into the back kitchen of a restaurant. His brain was buzzing nonstop. After completing the side kick, Merlawanka tidied his suit and revealed a very indifferent expression at the same time. In a situation where you were injured by your own attack and were defenseless, you took my main kick, and you didn't die. Moreover, your ability is very special. It is mixed with an incomprehensible whole theory and regeneration method. I have to kill you first. Merlawanka did not chase forward. Instead, he gave a side kick to the fire hydrant on the side of the road. It looked like a swift kick, but the fire hydrant was intact. Only boom. A loud noise came from 3 streets away, accompanied by the collapse of the whole building. Grim was kicked out again. The side of his head was imprinted with a clear shoe print. Blood mixed with crazy attributes flowed out from a wound. Some kind of cause and effect relationship had been established. Merlawanka only needed to make an attack action to make the result feedback to Grim's body. Boom! A punch came out. Grim, who was flying in the air, was smashed to the ground by a punch, forming a crack more than 10 meters deep. It was followed by a series of downward punches, stomping with all his strength. The power of each blow was very terrible. It really affected Grim's body. The pit was also constantly cracking and expanding. A large amount of crazy blood that symbolized Grim's origin was wantonly splashing. Grim, if you continue like this, you will really die. Why don't you resist? The voice came from Grim's weapon, Miss Lyle. As a consciousness-linked sword maiden, she could clearly feel Grim's gradually deteriorating physical state. Yes, if this continues, I may really die. The main thing is that this is the first time I've seen this kind of ability. I was just a bit addicted. The principle should be a kind of process transfer, or even more subtle. Anyway, it is very difficult for me to understand in a short time. However, I'm constantly receiving attacks like this. That guy Bop should be able to see it clearly. With his brain, he must be able to analyze the secret. The opponent is just a mythical body that has been strengthened. This kind of ability that goes against the rules must have a limit. As long as I can find a gap, I can kill him. Let him fight for a while if I can't hold on. I will have to trouble Miss Lyle to come into my body. If you want to kill this guy, just staying on the surface is not enough. You are now in a state of injury. The injury from killing the Emperor has not fully recovered. Can you bear it? Of course, I am the boss. I must play a certain role in leading. Just as the conversation reached this point, cause and effect transfer. A punch directly smashed Grim's skull, interrupting his thoughts. Miss Lyle felt the extreme weakening of her vitality. She immediately turned into millions of fingernails, drilling into the abyss through the holes on the surface of her body. A pair of eyes that seemed to be glistening with tears could be faintly seen. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.